Excuse me. Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to Comic Book Team Up. This is RJ for the Fourth Age and me talk nonsense. How you doing, everybody? RJ, you
We got
there?
some regulars in the chat here.
Yep.
Yes, just to let everybody know, we've now moved the Crom the Destroyer campaign over to Fund My Comic. Having some troubles with Indiegogo. The campaign is still open, and we are hoping to ship end of summer. But this is the new home for Crom the Destroyer to let anybody know if they still want to get the comic or the book. Right now, the only thing available is the one graphic novel. We don't have anything up right at the moment, but that's what I think is necessary right at the moment. We'll concentrate on that.
Oh, good. Is the campaign live or is it still pending?
No, it's live. I just checked it right now.
Oh, good. Yeah, Fund My Comic. Luke was very helpful. All right.
Oh yeah. Oh, Luke was supremely helpful. I had problem with the Stripe. The reason why I hadn't gone to Fund My Comic before is because I was having problems with Stripe, trying to get it to work with Fund My Comic because I had a whole bunch of problems with Stripe to begin with. But Luke has the website set up so beautifully that it actually takes you to Stripe through Fund My Comic, and it fills out some of the stuff for you, so it can act as an agent for you, and then you don't have to go into the back end of Stripe to try to get that whole thing done.
Right. It's idiot proof, and I'm an idiot because when I set it up, Luke said I was the only person who did it wrong. He was like, I don't know how you did it this way. I called him up like a raving lunatic, and he is you. Did you talk to him on the phone?
No, I talked to him, just messaged him over Twitter. But see, my problem was that the Mad Scribe magazine is coming out. Well, it's coming out the end of this month, where they're going to print some of the Crom the Destroyer pages, as well as an article from me. I'll put that link probably in the description if I have it on hand. But he needed his stuff in by last Monday for the printers, and so I needed a QR code for the new site so people could order Crom, because they're going to be looking at the cover in the first 3 pages.
Yeah, because I don't know who I was going to get my money for my campaign, and I called up Luke, and I was like a crazy person, and he was just calm as can be and soothing, and we called up Stripe, and we figured out what I did wrong, and he fixed it. So that's why, just because of that interaction, I'm with Fund My Comic. You know, of course I've tried Kickstarter and Indiegogo and everything, but I'll always be with Fund My Comic. You know, I may launch other places first. I want to try out a few things, but I'll always come to Fund My Comic. You know, but he's also one of my artists. He's drawing the Sleeper Agent, and he's so quick. Luke could do a monthly comic. No, you know, he does a page every couple of days. Like, unbelievable. Great guy, and he plays an instrument, and he's a pastor. I mean, oh man, I have like no talent compared to that guy. So I'm glad it worked out. I like to see my friends getting along.
This is going to be the new storefront right now. That's why I only put Crom up. I'm going to try to get rid of some of the, besides having people being able to order Crom if they see it in the magazine, also want them to be able to get some of the other stuff that I have a bunch of backlog for. Try to get rid of some of. I still got a lot of Valiant Heroes #1 left, just because of that guy who ordered like 1,000 copies and never picked them up. And then there was, I tried to deliver them to him, and he no longer resided at the place he lived in. And
you paid for them though?
Oh, he paid for them, yeah.
Oh.
So I mean, it's been over a year now. So, and I tried everything I could, and I could not track him down to get him these books, because I wasn't going to send them just regular mail, anything like that. I needed and make sure delivery was going to happen.
You know what's going to happen as soon as you get rid of them? He's going to be like, "Where's my books?"
Well, I'll print them off again for him if he wants.
So here's Crom. I'm going to make this big. So this is your new Stormfront. This is your new storefront on Fund My Comic. So you could get. So this is available right now, right? You'll ship this out right away.
No, I don't. I can't ship. We don't have Crom. We're still working on Crom.
So Crom the Destroyer. Gee, I'm thinking of Thomas Valiant. I am getting senile.
I just set it up for Crom, and that was it. But I'm also going to put Thomas Valiant and the other books on there when I get the chance. I was just putting out fires this week to get that article out, and I had to get the pages lettered for the first 3 pages in order for it to be printed in the magazine as well, because the stuff on the website just shows my lettered pages.
So $25 plus shipping to answer your question there, Vaz.
Shipping in America, US is $8. Just to let everybody know.
Yeah. Okay. Where am I? Okay. Yeah, I'm wondering why I gotta reduce that. So there we go. All right, cool. So I'm gonna do a rundown of all the people in the chat, and then you want to talk about stuff that we should be reading.
Yeah, I was thinking we could do, if you wanted to pull up like we used to. What was the name of that website where we just look at a month within a year of comics that come out?
Okay. What was that? Mike's Comic Corner or something like that?
Yes.
So Vaz, how you doing, Vaz? George Morales, how you doing? We got. What's it say? Is it bad that I went to my local comic book store today and saw nothing that caught my interest? Oh, RJ, when was the last time you went to local comic book store?
It depends. Depends, because some of the places that I've gone to recently are just like Funko Pop stores that have comics. And so I wouldn't actually call those a comic book store, but it's been a couple of months at the very least.
There's a comic book store near me, and it's near the supermarket. So when my wife is like, come on with me, I'll be walking towards the supermarket and I'm like, oh, and I pretend that I accidentally went into the comic book store, and she's like, but it's really sad because there's like, they have a sign that says buy 5 comics, get 5 comics free. And I still can't find 10 things that I want. New stuff, I and all the back issues, I pretty much have all the back issues that the store has to offer. Although they do have like really old stuff up on the front. That changes a lot. That I always like.
I've been collecting a lot of new people on X that follow me, and one of the people, I always check out the people that follow me, and one of the people was because they don't know who I am, and I rarely post a lot of stuff from my channel, but was a guy basically rah in comics saying, everybody's saying comics are dead. Comics are not dead. They're doing better than ever. And I'm thinking, okay, stick your head in the sand more, fella.
Either that or he's 20 years old. You know what I mean? He's compared it to a couple of years. You know what I mean? I don't know, who knows? Or he's a bot. My local comic store stopped getting new comics for was too much because they don't want to get an account with Lunar. Oh, I don't how they can stay in business. I guess I heard that some stores are like I got 2 comic book stores near me. There's 3, and 2 of them only sell back issues.
That's a smart thing to do right now, if you ask me.
Hey, I know this guy. Heroic Tales 2 is still available on the same site now with Crom the Destroyer. That is awesome. I love that about Fun My Comic. Literally, it is the only comic book site that I window shop and pick up stuff. Like Indiegogo's near impossible to navigate through, and Kickstarter, I go in and I get what I want from Kickstarter, but I don't look around because it's all porn comics.
Exactly. That's why I avoid Kickstarter like the plague. It's like, oh, this looks interesting. Maybe not. As I scroll down.
I'm like, oh, that I like that. Oh, okay. All right. But and I'm not a prude, but have some measure of I don't know. Like it's the lowest common denominator, selling parody porn comics. That's just the lowest common denominator. But Fun My Comic, I think it has all of the people that are excited and whatever. Yeah, I'm the biggest cheerleader. And consider the source. I have my my comic on the site.
Well, George says that he tried to click on Crom the Destroyer and it says approved but not started yet. So I apologize for that.
It says this campaign is approved but is not started yet. Yes, it says it right on the top. So either you have to hit go or you hit go and then I think he will hit like a second verification.
Yeah.
So if you want I mean, is it available now? You want to hit go?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's available to order now. It's Crom, so we're still working on it. But let's see. I'll see if I can do that while we speak.
Yeah, I have no problems talking forever, RJ. Have you met me? I need to find an old comic store with big back issue section since I want to get physical copies of King Conan. Yeah, George, you and me both. Where do you live, George? Come on down here. I'll take you to Tor's Comics right by me. I don't like to go to the store because they have everything. Back issues. Oh my God, this place is insane. Every square inch of the store is covered in back, and they know where everything is. You can ask them where it is, and they'll find it for you. And I'm talking, these guys have Fantastic Four number ones, amazing, and I say more than one copy, Amazing Fantasy 15. These guys got everything. So if you want back issues, George, come on down to New York. We'll go to Lucia's. We'll get some of the best authentic El Salvadorian food, which is basically American food but with taste. And and then we'll go get some comics. Oh, we'll get comics and then get the food, right? Shop hungry. Check out Indiegogo. I find Indiegogo to be like just super difficult to navigate through. If everybody in the chat, let me know. Which one of these platforms are your favorite? Have you used them all? Any bad experiences? Any positive experiences? That's a topic in itself. And George Morales says, and it's not because the new movie come out. I just like Mark Silvestri's. Yeah, you had an X-Men comment. And Zach Tan with the drive-by blessing. Thank you, Zach Tan. Thank you. That makes my day. I'm not even joking when I say I get nervous until I see the blessing by Zach Tan. I see John with that meat cleaver, and I think even the sandwiches are more dangerous in New York. What meat leak? What meat cleaver? I have a meat cleaver. I have a meat cleaver. I have a bunch of swords. I have a bunch of swords behind me. Hello, lads. Infinite Entertainment. Good to see you. Good to see you. I think you're new. I don't recognize you. I'm sorry, but it's always good to get new people. Good sound. Good. Okay, that's good. Oh, Tony, I'm glad you're here. Tony, for those, he's been co-hosted with me and Marcus on It's Clobbering Time on Friday nights. What's the topic this Friday? I forgot the topic, and I do that every Friday. Do you remember the topic? I gotta remember to write it down. I mostly have all the comics I want. Yeah, but if you're like me, you'll always find something good. You'll always find something good. I mostly have all the old comics I want, but grabbing them since the 80s. Grab the back issue stuff I want. Yep. Do you have info from the previous Crom campaign? We'll ask RJ when he comes back. He's checking if he could launch his site.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I can find this.
Oh, you scared me.
I can give you the Crom the Destroyer page from Indiegogo just so you can see the actual art, because that's where the art is up right now, even though it's not running. If you want to take a look at that, give me 2 seconds. I'll give you the link for that in the chat.
Okay. Comic books are for nerds, and MSK, I will say they were better when they were only for nerds. Now that all the cool people are into comic books, the people who just follow trends now have managed to filter their way into making the comic books, and they don't get it. They don't like it. They think they like it. They think they get it, but you know, it's and the same with Dungeons and Dragons. The same with everything else. I'm going to go out on a limb, RJ, and I'm going to say the turning point was Revenge of the Nerds. Revenge of the Nerds made people sympathetic to nerds, and it was the small rock that went off the cliff that snowballed into what we have now. We got to get back into bullying, let the jocks get all the hot chicks and play football and everything like that, and let the nerds have their nerd stuff. It was better. It was better. D&D was better in the 80s. Comic books were better in the 80s. Music was better in the 80s. And guess what? The oppressive right-wing Christians were in charge. And even the left was better. The left was making punk rock, and the left was making great comic books. You know, now the left is still in charge, and everything stinks. So let's put the nerds back in the lockers, put the Christians back in charge of everything, and let's get good comics again. Still, I don't think I have one at this point. Just grabbing to put in a box. Plenty left unread. Yeah, I got so many back issues. RJ, do you? I can't imagine you. I imagine you living very Spartan. Do you have boxes of unread comics?
Yeah, yes and no. I have boxes of new unread comics because, you know, like when I started my channel, I went in and bought like long boxes full of stuff for the last 10 years. So like 2009 to 2015 or, you know, stuff like that. So I do have like the first Ultima runs of Spider-Man and stuff like that, I've never read. But whether or not I'm actually going to get time for them, I don't know. After seeing, I just bought them. There was an impulse buy, dollar comics a long time ago, that when I first was getting back into comics. So whether or not I'll actually get to them, I don't know. I would prefer right now to read my older comics that I know are good.
Yeah, I'm reading like this. I'm reading. Trying to finish up all my unread Mr. X's today. So, I mean, this is like what 2010. I love Mr. X, and it got so good now that Dean Motter took back control of it. Okay, Vaz says I forget if Vaz is a man or a woman. Forgive me. Doing okay, but I don't want to assume your gender, Vaz. That's I'm very doing okay, but they put us in climate lockdown today, and I lost electricity most of the day. I assume you're in Canada. I mean, do they do climate lockdowns? That does not sound like a good thing. Like, remember,
I've never heard of climate lockdown. What the heck is that?
I know this sounds like a new way to control people's lives, to oppress people. And remember, anytime the weather does anything, it's evidence of climate change. There are good comics, things you need to go through. Yes, there's good music. I couldn't imagine being 18 years old right now, because when I was 18, I was totally into comics. I was totally into music. And I had all the free time and that desire to sift through all the bad stuff to find the good stuff. Like, there's no good music. There's no new. I'm officially, my beard just got older and grayer as I said that. Does anybody? I feel a little bit better because when my father's 57 years old, he hated all the music. I'm 57, and at least my nieces and nephews say, like, yeah, Uncle John, music sucks. What do you guys think? There you go. When you got no electricity, read comic books. Read comic books. Unfortunately, I live in California. Yeah, well, New York is now a conquered Muslim state, so. RJ, what is your opinion on the medieval legend of Phyllis and Aristotle?
I'm not aware of that off the top of my head. What is the medieval?
I don't know that one. I don't know that one. Alexandra, this sounds interesting. Could you give us some details? Hey, Ryan Banks is here. Solo Legion. Check out Solo Legion. Ryan, if you put www and then leave a couple of space, you could type in your link, but you can't put it in as a link. But if you want people to see where they can check out your comic, I got no problems with that. A Fun My Comic is my favorite. I contributed to campaigns on all three. I only have customer experience. Yeah, okay. Yeah, not that many people have creator experiences. Yeah, but I will say what I like about Luke is he's the guy. Like, RJ had a problem and he talked to the guy and the guy fixed it up for him. And now Fun My Comic has a campaign page all within one day. You don't get that kind of personalized customer service at Kickstarter or Indiegogo. That is why I will always sing the praises of Fun My Comic. Does it have bugs? Yes. Luke is the first guy that'll say that there's problems. As a customer, it has the least amount of problems, but as a backer, it's out of the three sites, it's the second easiest. I found Kickstarter was easiest to use as a creator as far as getting your information and stuff. But Luke promised me that there's going to be a major update in the next couple of months to make it even easier. And he actively asks you, hey, now that your campaign's over, any suggestions? And I told him the suggestions, and he said, yeah, that's a really good idea. I could bore you with inside details, but
let everybody know. I've said this not for a long time. I guess it's probably about a year since I said this, but I used my acquired private detective skills to track down where Indiegogo is actually located, and it's a tiny little office above a Kinko's in Los Angeles, just to let you know. So professional, I don't know. I think Luke is probably more professional than Indiegogo is at this point.
Yeah, Luke is just smaller, but he's definitely more professional. Like I said, he when you open up a campaign, he's sending you his phone number, so Infinite is roasted me justifiably with great reason. He was just on my channel 8 days ago. There's this thing called early onset dementia that is I live in fear with. Oh yeah. So I'm yeah. Forgive me. I look at avatars. You don't look like your avatar. So yeah, I apologize. You were just, and that was a fun talk. And I don't know if you got my message. I felt like I talked too much and didn't give you enough time to talk about your campaign. So if you ever want to come back, you know, that's fine. We had a fun talk, and you got me pontificating, and I don't feel I gave you enough time to talk about your project. Yeah, I remember you now. I just didn't recognize the avatar. I apologize. Here we go. Anybody else? Don't you want the modern audience to read them? Let the fringe stay fringe. Yes. You got to earn your way. RJ, what do you think about gatekeeping?
Oh, I did a video a long time ago about how gatekeeping is, before anybody else was even saying it. I was saying, yes, gatekeeping is a good thing. This is like 2019, probably, when I did that video. I was like, yes, we have to gatekeep this and actually put that's what editing is, for crying out loud. It's everybody would be a writer if it wasn't for editing. Or I'm a published writer, as that is, I guess I would say, professional writer. Anybody can write. Like you and I are writers. We're writing our own comic books. But the thing is that editing itself is a level of gatekeeping, saying you got to meet these standards, or we're not putting you here, here, or here. So
everybody understands and everybody agrees that there's gatekeeping, but then we pretend there's not. Like you don't just join the New York Jets and be a football player. You know what I mean? There's a gate. There's a very difficult gate that you got to get through to become a football player. Anything, an actor, a movie star, politician. My problem is it snobby? Like if you walk into the gaming store and everybody's playing Warhammer, and hey, what is this? And they're just like, duh, this guy wants to know what Warhammer. That I don't like. Everybody's allowed to be a newbie. Everybody can express interest, but like, I don't know. Like when I go to the mall and I see like a grandmother in a John Buscema Thor shirt, I'm just like, you don't know anything about Thor. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she does, but you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, you're a soccer mom wearing a Daredevil shirt by Gil Kane. It's like, or Stan Lee. Like my sister-in-law bought me a Stan Lee shirt, and I don't like wearing it. I wear it at home because I feel like people are gonna think I'm just a poser. Oh, that guy's just into Marvel comics now because there's movies.
I think I probably told you this story before, but I remember. So I was going into a government office, and I was just waiting in line. I was the next person in line, and these two women were talking. I think it was like the tax office or something like that. These two women behind the desk were talking to each other, and one of them goes, I don't understand it. Why would my brother buy me that shirt? It says I weigh as much as a duck. I don't understand.
He's calling her a witch.
Yeah, I started laughing, and she goes, look, he gets it. I would not explain it to her.
As much as folks make fun of normies, they should be. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the word normal. There's nothing wrong with being normal, and there's nothing wrong with having norms. We have stereotypes, we have biases, we have discrimination. In the positive senses of the word. So we don't have to learn everything new every day. We're not just hatched out of the egg. Happy birthday, like Frosty the Snowman. Like we have these built-in things, and then we can learn to pick out the exceptions. You know what I mean? But yeah, there's nothing wrong with norms. Or you're a male. I had it in my mind that you're a female. I'm sorry, but then again, whatever you identify with as Vaz. Oh man. So this apropos of nothing, RJ, there's an apprentice that's in my shop but not on my job that identifies as a cat.
Yeah.
And he's a 28-year-old male, and he has a pink rope sticking out of his pants because that's his tail, and he wears cat ears, and it demands like cat pronouns. I'm not playing this game.
Honestly, John, I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're a construction electrician. That's just dangerous. Right, having someone like that is just dangerous.
I'm going to say like, oh, you're a cat. Okay, well, I can't work with you because according to our contract, only humans could be on this job. And if you're a cat, I respect you as a cat. You can't be here. Like I know it's me. It's I feel like I'm going to get in trouble sooner because I can't play this game. I cannot play this. It's like, and if anybody asks me, I'm just like, no, you can't make me a liar. Like, there's no rule that says that I have to lie because that's what I'm doing. We all know this person's not a cat. So you're telling me I have to lie now? You know, it needs to go to the Supreme Court. This thing is nonsense. The whole thing is that they promote dorks, not nerds. So you got idiots who think it's the same thing. Greg Doherty, that's funny that you said that because I always said there was spazzes, dorks. There's spazzes, nerds, and geeks. And they're different. A dork is just an awkward person. And a spaz is, a person who's uncoordinated. A geek is somebody who's really into something. So you could be a comic book geek. You could be a sports geek. And when I worked at Citi Field with the Mets, they were sports geeks. Like, they knew sports inside and out. Like, they were speaking a whole different language, And then there's nerds that are into things that are just not cool, but that nerd is now cool. So that is like whatever. But does this make this... RJ, you get what I'm saying? Like, each one of these words to me had like a different meaning. Like, you could be a spazzy geek nerd, but like, if you're into motorcycles, you're a motorcycle geek, but you're not a nerd because motorcycles are cool. Like I have a friend that's into brewing his own beer. He's a beer geek, but he's not a nerd.
Let's put it this way. We'll go etymologically, John. Geek is originally a word meaning someone who basically eats things which are unedible, like glass or steel. So
Really?
That's what we do. We eat things that are unpalatable to the majority of people.
Okay, I did not. I knew when we were kids that my father told me a geek is somebody at the carnival who bites the head off of chickens. And right. I never knew if he was serious or not, but was like the unofficial definition of geek. So maybe you're right. I got to look it up now. Don't trust Google statistics. Not only that, don't trust AI. Oh my God. I got Grok, and sometimes when I'm driving, I'll put on Grok because I can speak to it and I'll bounce ideas just to help myself. But I understand it's not real information. And then every once in a while, I'll ask it questions that I know the answers to, and then it's wrong. And I go, that's wrong information. Oh, you got me there on that. That's a good catch. And it'll go on for like 15 minutes. And finally, I'm like, what good are you? So I don't know. I part of me is like, these people who use AI to write their papers for school, they're going to get caught. Because it's always wrong. Who's in Iran? Did I miss something? I missed something. I hope whoever's in Iran, I hope they're doing good. Oh, you're in Quebec. There's currently an orange warning for snowstorm and freezing rain. Wow. Are you cold up by you, RJ?
Cold? It was like minus 21 last week at this time in the night. But during the daytime, like we were what? So that's minus 21 Celsius for Canadians. But but the other day it was like 38, 42, and it was just, I was sitting outside my house on a bench and like, oh, this is like being at the beach, right? Because I was on the south side. So
yeah, I a week ago today there was a foot of snow on my lawn, and yesterday, I just slept late because I stayed up late, and I got dressed without looking out the window or anything like that. I put on my hooded sweatshirt, and I went outside. It was 78 degrees Fahrenheit. And I was dying. I was like taking off my sweatshirt as I was driving. And when I always stop and get Dunkin' Donuts to get a cup of coffee on the way to work, there were girl customers in like shorts. I'm like, a week ago there was a foot of snow on my lawn. Today it's summer, and then my wife just informed me it's probably going to snow again this weekend. So we're going to have a climate emergency because any change in the weather is proof of climate change. I love that they don't say global warming, global cooling anymore because but you can't debunk climate change because anything is proof of climate change. You know what I mean? Like, oh, RJ, you have personality instability. Anything you do proves my point, right? Shoot, I'm starting to watch movies from the 60s, 50s before I was born, and I'm enjoying them. Watch Siege of the Saxons. Yeah, watch Kirk Douglas Vikings.
I cut my teeth. That's I always think of myself as a story junkie. When we were kids, about the age of 13, we got one of those giant satellite dishes, right? You know, the really, really big ones they used to have. And we could get every channel under the sun, and it was like for free. So, but the thing I watched the most was American movie classics, and we would, and that at that time there were actual classics. Most of them were black and white, or barely in color. So, a lot of people say I don't want to watch black and white movies, but honestly, best movies you're ever going to get. I had
Yeah,
these friends who thought to themselves, "Oh, we watched like BJ and the Bear or something like Every Which Way But Loose." We watched, and they were saying, "Oh, look how much." Movies have become so much better over the years. And I'm thinking to myself, no. There was just a lull of crap movies in the 70s. They go back to the 30s and the 40s. You'll find some really, really good movies, 50s even.
I was talking with Chuck Dixon the other day on my channel, and he's saying that he wishes that there would be like a movement towards making movies crappier. Like, and what he says is like not as slick, not as well, like they look like 70s movies, like grainy films, and and real blood pellets and stuff instead of CGI. Just go back to practical effects and film instead of digital.
Well, that's the thing. Well, same with you and me. It's like I would love to print comics on newsstand, but you just can't get it anymore. It's like I don't know if we talked about this before, but a lot of people say the movies in the 80s look different and you can't recreate that. And that's exactly right. Why? Because they used a very specific kind of film at that time, which is no longer available. No one even shoots on film anymore. They now shoot on digital. So the whole thing is completely different. All you can do is put a filter on it. That's it.
I think Quentin Tarantino is the only one who still uses film, for his last movie. But yeah. Go watch. Oh, geez, there's so many great. If you like westerns, watch The Wild Bunch. Watch, oh my God, you'll be riveted to see. Watch The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
The original 310 to Yuma is my favorite, one of my favorite westerns.
That's a great one. Yeah, like so many westerns I could rattle off. War movies, Bridge Over the River Kwai. My dad was a World War II guy, so me and my dad watched westerns and war movies all the time, and I'm turning into my dad, which my wife smiles because my dad was a good guy. The mayor told you to stay inside and closed everything. Airport, school, government. I'm just curious now. This is Quebec, you said? Was like the weather in Montreal okay? Like, what was the emergency specific to Quebec? Did like the mole man attack? That kind of stuff just makes me crazy.
This is funny because I always have for decades and decades. There's a massive difference between different parts of this country. So you had these people from central Canada, where Quebec is central Canada. Basically, they would say it's Ontario, but it's central Canada. Anyways, they would come down here. I remember some professors being here, and they're like, "What do they mean they're closing down the roads? And why would they close down? You can't do that because they're from Ontario or Quebec, and they don't close down the roads. Here, you just like." We don't listen to anybody else, but at the very same time, if it's going to put the plow drivers' lives in danger for 4 people to be on the road, it's like, nope, not doing it, right? It's like, but really, you go do whatever you want. I ran across a stupid video of this lady who was reviewing a book that was written during the pandemic, and she was talking about these people who live in New York, and they kept on moving from their apartment in New York to out in the Hamptons or whatever it was. I don't know, wherever the place they go to. And they were back and forth. And she was saying, how did they do that when people were locked down? I'm going, because they didn't listen to the rules. You're so a nerd. Some people are just so stuck in the mindset of they have to follow the rules that they can't even fathom the fact that in some places you just have a mindset of, no, I'm just going to do what I want.
Yeah,
in the country, you just do what you want.
During the pandemic, my wife and I would walk to the supermarket rather than drive because nobody was moving their cars. So like this is such if you watch Seinfeld, I'm sure there's an episode, you don't want to lose the good spot. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to lose the good spot just to go to the supermarket. So we walked to the supermarket. A guy pulls up, yells at me and my wife, put on a mask. I'm like, I'm walking down the street with my wife. We live in the. Am I back?
Yep.
Yeah, we're in the same apartment. Like, do you and your wife just have a mask on in the house at the dinner table? Like, what prompted you? What is wrong with your brain that you're gonna go to a married couple, put on a mask? I was like,
Quite honestly, the first that time was probably the best time me and my kids ever had, because we just went and did anything we want. It was like, oh, they finished their schoolwork via Zoom for like 2 hours because it's stupid in school. They can do their schoolwork for 5 hours in 2 hours. And then we would just go to the beach. We would just, I mean, it doesn't matter, summer, winter, we just go to the beach, either swim or walk, or, we'd go hiking in the woods or whatever.
Today's actors, in addition to the classic negative aspects, were not even great actors because and today's actors can't shut their mouths. Like, say what you want. Like, actors I'll say up until the 80s, the actors were very patriotic, and they were like goodwill ambassadors for the rest of the world. Like, now you look at Mark Ruffalo, might as well be getting money from like communist China right now, just bad mouthing instead. So is this? Did anything happen? Did anybody die? Did the city survive? Did you survive, Vaz? This climate emergency, like a day of commerce is completely ruined. All of these poor businessmen. The mayor's still going to get paid, but all of these people that make these great stores that make life worth living, they lost a day's pay because the mayor decided to fearmonger.
The thing about me, although John is pretty much right when he talks about me being a Sasquatch, because I literally, the world could end tomorrow. Apocalypse could happen tomorrow, as in the entire government collapses and there's no money and you can't buy anything. I'd be fine. We're no problem here.
Yeah. And it's funny. If anybody picked up Heroic Tales 2, there's like a newspaper strip in the back called RJ and Me, and it's me being me, and then RJ is a Bigfoot, and it's just my wife loves that. She smiles every time she sees it. But RJ, let me tell you, you're not done with the Bigfoot stuff in my comics. Probably check out Heroic Tales 5 when that comes out for more RJ Bigfoot action. Shoot, it's hot. It bears out everything. I thought it was a joke with the groundhog seeing a shadow. Yep. Our groundhog didn't see a shadow. That's the problem. The groundhog union has got to get together and decide the New England one. Now, the one in Staten Island one is 85% accurate. Someone's going to gatekeep. It should be those who love it. Yes, but that's just it. Is for those of us, those that love comic books, for the most part, are sitting home reading and enjoying their comic books. It's all the people that pretend to like comic books that get all active. They just, what's the word? Karens. What is happening today is clearly weaponized news. Didn't see anything like that since the start of the pandemic, and people obeyed. Yeah. Like, what was the weather at least bad? Like, what happened? If you went outside, did people die in the streets? I'm sure there's homeless people. Did they make it out alive? Like, what prompted this? Was this just a test to see how compliant you guys are? Gatekeeping is, I won't even say it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Like, I gatekeep my Thanksgiving dinner. You can't just walk in and sit down at my table. You know what I mean? It's something that we intrinsically understand it as necessary, but then like we pretend it's bad.
Here's something I ran across over the last week. I haven't gone fully through this yet, John. Bring it back to comics for a second. Okay. I ran across a article recently written in the last couple of days by Joe Quesada, and it was talking about editing comics. And I'm reading through it going, because I think Joe Quesada is the patient zero for bad comics.
You're right. I'm backing you up on that.
But at the same time, I'm reading this article going, he's absolutely right about what he's talking about. He's talking about editing comics. He's talking about how to make things punchy. He's talking about double page spreads and all this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, you have the technical skill to actually make good comics. And it is your political ideology that is turning everything to crap.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael Bancroft here. If you want to come in and talk with us, you're always welcome. Always welcome, Michael.
But my point being that's why you need to gatekeep. Is like yes. That's what you got to keep out of your hobby, right? That's the level of no, this stuff doesn't belong here.
So, RJ, does this sound familiar? The medieval legend of Phyllis and Aristotle tells of a young woman, Phyllis, passion, humiliated the great philosopher Aristotle reason by forcing him to ride her like an animal. I think I heard that, but I thought it was classical Greek. That I don't know if it's true or apocryphal that Aristotle was all a reason, but he had like a wife or something like that. I'm not going to talk anymore because I'm going to embarrass myself. But I did hear something about this story, and I can't remember where I heard it or all the details. But now you're ringing bells.
It might you might be confusing a little bit with the birds, which is Socrates, because the fact that he had this nagging wife in the birds because they were making fun of Socrates. I don't know, was Aeschylus? No, it's not Aeschylus. It's a comedian. I can't remember what his name was. Anyways, Aristophanes. Yeah, Aristophanes.
I remember that from The Odd Couple. Do you know the episode I'm talking about?
I haven't watched The Odd Couple since probably the late 80s.
I'm not. See if anybody in the chat gets that reference. That's a old fart reference right there. I'm older than you, RJ, so I remember The Odd Couple. AI is basically a search engine and a lot of bad info. Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I was making a joke about losing electricity because he's in Iran. Oh yeah. RJ's in the woods. Yeah, all the trades started to be flooded with Wokies because the job is marked up. Regular guys are telling young kids to get into the trades. Yes, the trade, carpenters, they do have a natural gatekeeping called hard work. A lot, like when I started, we had an apprenticeship class with like 500 people, and about 150 of them made it through the program. It was hard. It was the 5 hardest years of my life. I don't know if I could go through it again, because I was working full time, as much overtime as I can, because I was I went from school teaching, nice salary, to minimum wage, and I had to move back in with my parents, which was super embarrassing, and then work all the overtime. Then I had to take classes. I had to do homework. It was rough. Oh my God. And these guys, like, you make mistakes in the trades, they just, like, they ask you for channel locks and you hand them pliers. They just throw it down and stick their hand, like, they're not asking for, oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong tool. You know what I mean? You don't want to get teased. This is mean to say, but I have a family member that quit because he was getting his chops busted. Like, I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. And I was like, got to get good. Nobody busts chops on a competent person. My first year as a construction worker, I was 30 years old and I was like welling up tears. It was really tough. I had a hard time. I didn't know what I was doing. And because I was older than most, they assumed I should know. And then and these guys were rough, calling you whatever names that I don't even want to repeat. And every day I'm like on the train going, I made a mistake. You know what I mean? It's rough. That's gatekeeping. If we just, what happened to the Spartan army? I assume that they stopped gatekeeping. Look at the Roman Legion. They stopped gatekeeping.
Oh yeah, they stopped gatekeeping. That's exactly what they stopped doing, because they started letting in mercenaries from the tribes, the pagan tribes outside of Rome. But your story made me think of a interesting story one of my roommates had when I was in university, probably like 3rd, 4th year. What he did for summer work was, those giant, I don't know what they're called. Like, I don't know if you guys would have them down there, but it's giant barrels where they keep the gas that feeds all of the area for gasoline. So basically, him and a bunch of guys were cleaning the inside of them because they had to be redone. So they're cleaning the inside, and they had this guy that started, and they knew he was going to be a problem. So they just worked as like, okay, for the next 2 weeks, we are going to work flat out every day, every minute. We're just going to get rid of this guy because he's going to quit. And that's what they did.
Yeah. Temporary labor, work until he quits. There was a guy in my apprenticeship class, and after about 3 or 4 weeks in, he was just like, I'm leaving. I'm quitting. I'm like, what do you mean you quitting? You're doing good. He's a big guy. He wasn't like a weakling or anything like that. What are you quitting for? He goes, I got a job at sanitation. And I was like, oh, that's a tough call. And then he quit. And then like a couple of years later, I'm working outside in Manhattan, and he just, hey Johnny, and he's on the back of a truck. We shook hands. But now that I'm 57 years old, I'm like, he's done working. He's retired. It's 20 years. He's got a pension. He's probably like in Florida fishing right now. And tomorrow I'm gonna go back climbing up in the. I don't know how it happened, RJ. I was the old man on the job, and now I'm the young guy on my crew, and I'm climbing up into the ducks. I put a picture on Twitter the other day of one of my partners took a picture of me because he thought it was funny. He goes, "You look like a monkey up there." Big old beard, way up in the ducks, working on stuff. Singing.
I gotta go look for that.
At the top of my lungs. I'll send it to you. It was just some small snow, but high wind. Nothing really bad except for a few electric. So it was just oh my God, how did Canada survive windstorms without climate emergencies before?
This is cities. This is the problem, John. Right? I'm sorry, everybody who came here to listen to us talk about comics, but this is the problem here: is the fact that up until what was it like? It was I was in high school, probably grade 12. It was when it ticked over from the majority of the world living in a rural area to the majority of the world living in cities, and now we got people who are trying to rule the entire world, city or country, by the mentality of people living in cities. That's what it is. It's like, oh, we got to shut down this and that because nobody in the city can drive. It's like, who freaking cares if nobody in the city could drive? It's like, I barely register the fact that there's speed limits anymore because I drive so much in the country, and there's no cops here. Nobody's going to pull you over. You drive whatever speed you want. It's like people from the city just drive me insane trying to impose rules that don't belong here.
People in the city, they don't realize how much work it is to get food into the supermarkets. They don't understand, like, oh, just food. Food should just be a right. Everybody should have food. Why doesn't just go ahead, go make it. Go out there and create food from nothing. See how much work it costs. So PE, I think, is Logic's finest. Says Joe Quesada or Brian Michael Bendis. Bendis made Miles Morales his adopted daughter. Yeah, but Joe Quesada hired Brian Michael Bendis. That's why Joe Quesada is. Without Joe Quesada, we wouldn't have had Brian Michael Bendis. Because I was saying for the longest time that Brian Michael Bendis was patient zero of everything that's wrong with Marvel. And then RJ pointed out that Joe Quesada hired him. So, Yeah, I'm
going to go down a rabbit hole for everybody here. If you don't mind, John, I'm going to take a little left turn. I posted this on my Twitter and on my page if anybody has seen it. But it has to do with Epstein. I found out recently that, so basically the guard who was supposed to be watching him the night he was declared unalived by his own hand, was searching his status in jail the entire time right up until he died. And right before one of those searches was also a search about Omar Amanat, who is son Amanat's brother and is the one who destroyed. She's the one who destroyed Marvel Comics, hired by Joe Quesada. Just, I mean, can you, and she's part of her family is part of this international, I don't know what you'd call it. It's like grift that they have. And he was called the most powerful man in Hollywood you never heard of before he went to prison and all this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my, is this entire thing connected? I don't know. But
who did he screw over to get arrested? Because you know what I mean? He's connected to because Sana Amanat is Huma Abedin's cousin.
Oh yeah, they grew up in the same house.
Who is the manager for Hillary Clinton? Yeah, and she's the grand poobah of all things that are evil.
So, that's how she got into the White House twice to talk to the president.
Yeah. So who did Omar Samadat actually screw over for him to get arrested? You know what I mean? Like, what did he like? Oh, you don't steal from Hillary Clinton. You steal from the peasants.
That's the thing, because he had a graft going where he would get people to. So basically, the Clintons through his cousin would introduce him as someone who was doing good work, and then he would ask for donations. Those donations would go to him, and he was given a kickback to the Clinton Foundation for these donations, most probably. And this is the little graft that he had going in order to actually look like he was going to produce things, but never did. Anyways,
Is the Amanat part? Are they part of the Muslim Brotherhood? Forgive me for not pronouncing these unpronounceable names. Are they part of the Muslim Brotherhood?
Well, Huma Abedin, again, she's the cousin of the Amanats, and because I don't know if it was her father basically lived in the Amanat's house with her when they first come over to America, and he is the supporter of the Muslim Brotherhood. Because she was the one that was censured. They tried to censure her from the government. I can't remember. Congress did it at one point, saying she should not have any contact with sensitive information because her father champions the Muslim Brotherhood and terrorism.
And supposedly, what's her name? Ilmar Omar from Minnesota. Her father is like one of the warlords. I heard. I don't know if that's true yet. You know, a dangerous terrorist warlord. Violent Comic says, I don't see most of the chats you're bringing up. That's because we're streaming on both channels. So let me see this. Okay, you don't see it, but so a lot of people are watching it on RJ's channel. A lot of people are watching it on my channel. So Violent Comics is watching this on my channel, but like Michael Bancroft is watching this on RJ. So you probably don't see his comments. Oh, two chat. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. I don't want anybody to be confused. So like I'm seeing a bunch of people watching it. RJ's probably seeing another, and the truth is probably both groups totaled, I think. Yeah, so we figured out how to simulcast. So we don't have to alternate it anymore. This is on both of our channels. There was a comment here that I wanted to bring up. Yes, these masks, these masks that we will wear, the N95s, they're worthless. They're worth. What they did was they kept they were doctors were to keep particles of drool out of from getting into infections when they do surgery. This is crude, RJ, and I always watch my language when I'm with you. But like in an argument with somebody about these masks, I'm like, can you smell farts? And they're like, of course I can. I'm like, yeah, because this was at work. I'm like, through long johns, through underwear, through dungarees, you're still smelling farts. And you think this mask is going to stop anything. You know what I mean? Knock it off. This is the biggest joke in the world. What I really loved is when you went to the supermarket and there was like a 3x3 piece of plastic.
Oh, there are shops right now that I will never go to for the rest of my life because of the nonsense that they put me through trying to buy stuff. Especially there's this hardware chain where I went to, and they had it was in the summer and the spring summer, and they had an outside plant market out in the parking lot, and they wouldn't let me into the freaking outside plant market because I didn't have a mask. And it's like, you people are ridiculously stupid. Anyways, just really quickly, Violent Comic says he doesn't follow my whole Epstein.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Okay.
It's because of the fact that this guard who was supposed to be checking on Epstein and never did, and that's why he's dead, they found out that she has a whole bunch of payments, mysterious payments that went into her bank account for some reason prior to all of this happening. So why in the heck they're thinking, okay, something was going on here that she knew about that she wasn't supposed to be doing, possibly. And that's why she was checking the status of Jeffrey Epstein every, 5-10 minutes to see if anybody had found out that he died yet, because she probably knew he was going to die. And at the same time, she was checking on Omar Amanat. So I'm thinking to myself, is there a connection? I don't know, but yeah, I would not.
The connection is, why would the guard, Jeffrey Epstein's guard, two people that they're looking for on search engines is Omar Amanat and Jeffrey Epstein? What are the odds? Like I tell my wife, there's no coincidences. There's just no coincidences. I recently read in an interview that Joe Quesada does not regret one more day. Yes. As a matter of fact, I just saw Tom Brevoort. Did you see this, RJ? Tom Brevoort says he would rather make fans angry than apathetic.
Oh, I'm going to do an entire video about this on Saturday. Basically, it's the mentality of people who are trying to sell rather. I understand, like, you and I and people that are making comics and things like this, there's art and there's also the point to it that you have to sell books and all that kind of stuff. But it's got to a point where the whole let's sell books has eclipsed, even though like Disney is owned by, or Marvel is owned by Disney, and they don't care about the sales anymore. It's just non-existence. I always used to say, excuse me, years ago, that their what is it? Their currency is not money anymore. It's awards and things like that, because what they're trying to do is, I don't know, it is to sell their ideology more than anything else. So I don't know. I'm going to go, hopefully, unless something weird happens and I go off on another tangent, but that'll be what my Saturday video is going to touch on.
Yeah. Yeah. I if I'm writing a story, Patriarch #2, I'm hoping that people get a little angry, but as part of like a normal reaction to something bad, you know what I mean? But I hope people understand that this is drama and tension in storytelling. You know what I mean? I'm not just gonna make Spider-Man gay and then laugh at people getting angry. There's two different. You want your readers to feel something. You want your readers to feel joy. You want your readers to feel satisfaction. You want your readers to feel like catharsis, that was a good story. And you want your readers to feel angry at certain points. You're supposed to, like when the bad guy does something bad, you're like, that rat jerk, I want him to suffer. That's righteous anger. But like, you want them to be angry at the things that they're supposed to be angry about. Like, all of a sudden the Hulk is now, whatever, they, them, non-binary cat person, and you will respect Hulk's prime. They're doing the wrong thing. They're doing the wrong thing.
This is where I would go with it. I would go back to what I always go back to, is the fact that the reason why we have such good stories in Western culture is because we follow the Aristotelian way of creating a story, which is a logical progression of things, and it's a rhetorical argument. So basically, you're basing the suspension of disbelief that everybody has when they open up the book on something that that they're going to accept when they open up the page. And one way to tug at that is, and to basically bring it up in the mind of the reader, is through emotion. Because again, rhetorical argument, it's already there, it's set. Emotion is your key. But if you're using that emotion to change the way they fundamentally look at everything before they even open up, it doesn't work. And that's the point of this nonsense storytelling, especially in comics that we get today. It's that they're trying to change your mind about what you need as a basis for your suspension of disbelief. And that's not going to work.
Yeah. It's funny because I was thinking about you the other day, RJ. I was writing a story and I had a general idea for the story. And I was like, now how do I get to that general idea? And I need to think of a beginning before I can even sit down to write. Like, I need to think, okay, where does it start? And that'll prevent me from writing more than anything else, is I just don't know where to start. But I'll have a story and I'm like, okay, should I do this in flashback? Should I just start chronologically? Blah, blah. Okay, now I'm thinking of the story. And then I'm just thinking, I write panel to panel to panel to panel. And then this feels right to change the page. I think of them all as links in a chain, and it has to be a logical progression. So it's just like, I'm not saying I'm a great writer. I'm not even saying I'm a good writer. I'm saying I'm a rookie writer who made 2 comic books. And my goal is to get better with every issue. Now, and it's not for me to say whether or not I feel like I'm getting better, but that's for you guys to tell me. So let me know. But the last story that I wrote, it was just like, this is a chain. This link leads to this link, leads to this thing. And next thing I know, I got to where I wanted to get to. I told everything I wanted to tell, and I came up with other cool stuff because I thought of it logically. And like the Winter Warlock from the from the Christmas special, I had to put one foot in front of the other. And I think you're right. Why the progressive stories don't feel right is I think they just want to force a situation into a story. Damn the logic. You know what I mean? Like it's not so much a link in a chain. It's like I don't know, like a swiggle. Am I making any sense?
Oh, you're making sense. And this is what I was talking about with Joe Quesada, is the fact that he was talking about the same thing in that article. He was talking about how the natural progression of a reader and how you capture their attention is to make sure that there's no gap in their attention from panel to panel. I'm thinking to myself, you know exactly how to make a good comic. It's same as like Klaus Janson. Klaus Janson comes over from the Eisner School every year to Marvel and tells them this is how you actually create sequential art according to the Will Eisner model. These people know exactly and have the experience of making good comics and making good stories, and yet they don't follow their own advice because of this fact that they have this illogical ideology that they have to put in, and it's counter to the logical progression of an actual story that Western civilization has championed for 3,000 years minimum.
Michael Bancroft, for those of you who don't know Michael Bancroft, he has his own comic called The Lucent. It involves dreams, which I find very fascinating. And Michael, no, I didn't rip you off. I have a character called the Sleeper Agent whose superpower is lucid dreaming and things like that. Very dissimilar from your comic, but Michael, he's a man of many talents. He writes, draws, does it all. Do you even color?
Yeah, he colors. Oh yeah, he colors. Makes everything this green. See this green he has on here? Michael loves green.
And he's charming, and he has a very entertaining channel. Man, just But anyway, so what does he say? There's a promise at the beginning of any story. The problem is these new writers think they know better and cannot break the promise originally made by the greats. I remember that's. I took piano for about 5 years. I cannot play a thing to this day, but I remember arguing with my piano teacher that I came up with a better system for reading music and stuff like that. And my teacher was just like smiled at me, amused. This 10-year-old arrogant kid thinking that I know better than Ludwig van Beethoven how to play a piano. And she was like, okay, play. Let's hear. You know what I mean? And she just totally took the wind out of myself. But that is just arrogance. Like it's a perfect example of learn two facts and start shouting. Like the smart man knows how dumb they are. The dumb person doesn't know what they don't know. Is that what you're saying, Michael? Because I kind of agree with that. That's why I'm not going to say I'm a great writer. I'm not even a good writer. I'm just a guy who wrote 2 comic books.
Here's the way I think about it, John. Just to interject, but this is what I'm going to do my Saturday video on: is that we're not trying to be the best. We're just trying to make some culture. I mean, it's geek culture. It's culture we are used to, but we're trying to build culture. That's it.
What I'm trying to do? I'm trying to get these ideas out of my head and share them. Really, I have for 30, 40 years, I've been thinking of stories and stuff. And I just want to share funny stories with people and maybe a little bit of cleverness, and people like, oh, that's cool. That was entertaining. And then maybe someday we'll all sit around and talk about my characters, and I have to be quiet because I don't want to spoil. I just think it's fun, but that will make culture, I hope, because it's made with, I'm not going to lie and say that I'm a great writer or anything, but I will say that I'm passionate about it and I enjoy doing it and I want to share it with people. And it's important to me. Those things I can say with definite sincerity and honesty, but I'm not going to be hubris enough to say that I'm a great writer or anything like that. I'm the weakest link in my comics. Matter of fact, we got Oscar over here, who's just my colorist. He's just an awesome colorist and also an awesome artist. He's more talented than I'll ever be, but I lost the point of what I was trying to say in this rant. But oh yeah, culture. It's all culture is just little drops here, little drops here, little drops here that eventually run downstream and into an ocean. And unfortunately, it's been poisoned, and I think we got to just, Michael Bancroft, Oscar. We're refilling this empty well with new refreshing water.
I think one of the things to Oscar's point, to point out something, I think the best writers right now, at the very least in our indie section of the world, the best writers allow the rest of the team to cook at the speed that they want to, because we have people like Oscar, beautiful colorists. We got people like Renzo, beautiful artists. We got people like Bill who know what they're doing for his lettering, all these kind of stuff. Inkers, everybody who knows what they're doing, just get out of their way. At
Right.
some point, you gotta have the humility to get out of their way.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I joke around that I assembled the Avengers, and I know my comics are gonna look great. The only thing I can't, the only thing I guess we all, I'm sure Oscar like doubts himself and Bill doubts himself, but like I worry so much about the story because I know nobody, there's a bunch of people that hate me on YouTube, comic book people, but they never criticize the way my comics look, lettered, colored. They don't even criticize the way they're written. They just criticize me now that I think about it. But it's and the point that I was going to make is I know the secret of my success is the people that have been helping me. It's not me. It's Oscar. It's Renzo. It's Daniel De La Silva. It's all these people. And Marcus Kellegrew, who's drawing one of my stories, he gave me a good compliment the other day. He goes, "I've never worked with anybody who is so willing to share credit with everybody else." And I get a piece of art, and I'm dying to show the world. And I'm like, "Look what Renzo drew. Look what Oscar colored. Look what Marcus drew." I'm sad if you like that picture that Oscar drew, that Renzo drew, that Marcus drew. If the Matrix, when you can see all the numbers, my writing is in that picture because I wrote that panel. You know what I mean? So I'm satisfied. If you like it, that's cool. I wrote that story. I made up that character. I had him throwing that punch. So I don't need people to praise me. Praise Renzo. I'll take the reflected glory. I had a part in that.
Sound Graver brought up a good point. She says it's okay to know you're good as long as you know to keep learning. I'd say that this world is made up of two different kinds of people. One kind of people who say to themselves, "I've learned enough, I'm done." And another type of person who is like, "I will continue to learn throughout my life." And you're going to find whether or not something has merit just down those lines, because you got people like, for you and I, we have great nostalgia for really good old comics, but at the same time, we're not just trying to stay there and not move. We know that we can learn and make things better and try to make it new again. And if you don't have somebody who has the humility to say, "I'm going to keep on learning until I die," I'm sorry, you might as well put them in the grave now, because they're just going to get in the way.
Oscar says it's been less than 10 years that Marvel put colorist credits on the cover. Yeah, the inside front cover of all my comics just has everybody who had anything to do with the comics and big names. Got to give people credit. I can't. The only person I know is Michael Bancroft is the only one who could do it all by himself. Everybody, even the big name artists have other colorists and other letters. Michael Bancroft does it all by himself. There was a comment that I wanted to say. I lost it. Millennials and Generation Z want everything to be meta, snarky, nihilistic, reference current social ideology, and make nothing serious, and make jokes every time. Like, what was that? Like the Josh Whedon syndrome or whatever? Like, I don't know. I find humor to be the toughest thing to write. Like, I don't have that much funny stuff in my comics because it's really, really difficult. I wrote a humorous story. I sent it to Matt Barr, and I'm in the middle of my second humorous story, but it is the hardest thing I've ever written. We want to do like a sci-fi Mad Magazine type humor, and I got 4 stories. I'm in the middle of my second one, and it is tough. RJ, do you ever write humor? Oh my God,
I'm not good at humor. I can tell you right now.
And the worst thing in the world to watch, read, is humor that's not funny. It's excruciating. It is. So that's another reason why Marvel comics are bad, is all these jokes just aren't funny.
Here's the thing. I want to talk about what he just said. It's the fact that for you and me and a lot of people, even people we work with, there's a whole lot of meta going on in the background of my story, I can tell you right now, but it's not meta that you need to know in order to understand the story, first of all. And if you don't get it, that's fine. and there are some people that will and some people that won't, and it's just thrown in there because I like the fact that I can throw Easter eggs in here every once in a while. Renzo loves to put things in the background that reference other comics. I was doing like one of the Fade to Blue. It's not even a plot point, but basically he runs across a ship because this is 1929. He runs across a ship in the harbor, and the ship is the ship from King Kong. And, you know, all of these things that you don't need to know these things in order to understand the story. But there's a whole lot of meta in there. And like Thomas Valiant is a whole lot of meta about virtues and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's there. But I think that's the point of geek culture is you understand the meta, even though it's not explained to you, but you don't have to get it.
So I'm going to give a spoiler, but you inspired me. The patriarch has 7 children because each one of them is going to be one of the 7 cardinal virtues, you know. So I want to try to tell stories about, you know, them struggling with them. So that's going to be, you know, they're just like Neil Gaiman's the 7. Life was also death. So like each one is going to have struggles with that virtue. So there's a reason why I picked 7 kids. And that's all your fault, RJ. Writers used to reference classical art, literature, and history. Millennials and Generation Z reference internet memes. Yeah, I know. They used to reference universal themes and stuff everybody understood, and now it's just like some meme that I don't get because I'm an old fart. But make the simple, basic stories. That's what I'm trying. I stripped down my first story. Maybe I stripped it down too much, but I just wrote a script the other day that is, one of my readers was just like, man, this is dense. This is just like lore of the comic. I said, but was it bad? He goes, no. And he goes, you built up to it with your other stories. You know what I mean? But if that was my first issue, I think people would have been like, nah. My grandpa used to say, the fool chatters, but the wise man listens and learns. Yeah, I'm pretty foolish. I talk too much. Yeah, they have room enough for the assistant editor, the editor, group editor in chief. Yeah, I know. And then, you know, I agree with you.
And the funny thing is, some of those editors, all they do is place ads, and yet they get themselves a byline in the front page.
I mean, I'm not against giving them credit, but give everybody credit. Give everybody credit. You know, the letterer, the inker, the colorist. The topic of how you become a great writer is common amongst pro writers. Some believe it's talent you're born with, others think it's all training. What do you think? Are you born with it, or can you train with it and get?
I think it's training, but I think it's training that begins when you're a child. Your connection to story and how you actually view the world makes you a good storyteller. That being said, you can be an old man and still become a really good storyteller if you buckle down and actually follow the rules well enough to know when to break them, just like anything else. And it's, again, storytelling is a logical argument. We're Western culture. I do this in my videos all the time. That's why our storytelling is the way that it is. It's been that way for 3,000 years for a very specific reason, to make it as efficient as possible. So you can learn, just as you can learn rationality and learn geometry and anything else that's based on reason, you can learn to be a good storyteller.
And humor has been pretty consistent for 3,000 years, except for today. If you read Greek plays, it's guys falling down on their butts, dick jokes and fart jokes. You know, people that invented philosophy and democracy laughed at fart jokes 3,000 years ago, and now we got to act embarrassed by Benny Hill. Nah, it's the same. It's just humor is humor is humor. RJ's high flute, and he's the exception with his pinky out as he drinks his chamomile.
Now we go back to Aristotle again when he talks about comedy. Again, I did a video about it where he talks about how comedy is a species of the absurd, and of the grotesque. You just get it all of a sudden shoved in your face, and you got no other reaction except to laugh.
I just wanted to say this. I think that some people are just born with a gift. Like I could have been 10 years old, picked up the guitar, but I'll never be Jimi Hendrix. You know, I think Jimi Hendrix was born with almost like he had to train, he had to practice and do everything else everywhere. But like I could practice guitar for 20 years and I'd be mediocre. I'll never be Jimmy Page or whatever. But I think some people are just born with an advantage, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Like a 6'2" person's gonna be better at basketball than the average 4'8". You know what I mean? Some people.
I know what you mean, and that does make sense. But at the same time, I think of Steve Martin. He was a comedian and said, "I need an extra hook." So he says, "I'm going to learn to play an instrument." He decided to learn to play the banjo, which is one of the hardest instruments you could ever learn to play, and he became like an expert at playing the banjo.
Yeah. He said, "I'm gonna." And over the course of now he makes banjo records, and he did it just because he's like, who. Yeah, this is goofy. It's weird to see a guy come up on stage in New York playing a banjo. It was really alien back in 1973 to see that dressed in a white suit playing a banjo, and it worked. It was funny. So he's really good. That's funny. That's funny that you brought that up. I was always a fan of his, Steve Martin. I remember I had all those records as a kid. I probably still have them memorized. All those editors, and they still have spelling mistakes and continuity errors. Oh, it hurts my heart, but you're absolutely right. The spelling errors, I can't complain because I'm not going to point out how many spelling errors, how many typos there are by my first issue. My second issue, I don't think there's any typos. My editor said I didn't catch any typos, and she's good like that. So, but my first issue, I just gave it away. There's 3 typos that I spotted. But continuity errors, that's unforgivable. Because do you know how many people just memorize everything Marvel Comics? I memorized everything Marvel Comics up to 2015, and I can't be the only super fan. Like these guys that I worked with at Seafield, they memorized every baseball stat. I bet you there's no baseball continuity errors, stat errors when these guys are talking and they're putting up stuff on the scoreboards. But they don't hire fake baseball geeks. You can't get to that level unless you know everything about baseball from the black and white days till now. But Marvel Comics, for whatever reason, it's identity politics reason, they just put you in. It doesn't matter if you don't like it. I mean, they proved it. Look at how many writers. Who's the one that wrote America Chavez? I can't think of her name. If anybody in the chat remembers her name, put it in the chat. But she actually said she had no interest, she had no desire, and she didn't know comic books, and they just picked her to write America Chavez.
Same with the woman who they picked to write Riri Williams. Same with Sina Grace writing Iceman. But George, to your point, is the fact that, and again, I say this over and over again, is the fact that these are quote unquote progressive postmodern people who basically think that language does not have any fixed meaning, and their definition of continuity is completely the opposite of what you and I and everybody else in history have actually defined continuity as.
Yeah. It's funny. I say this to all my partners at work. I come across as a jerk at first, but then I think they understand. But I say words have meaning. Like, I'm up on the ceiling, and I'm like, okay, how does that look down there? Oh, it's a little cocked. Okay, how does that help me? I knew it was a little cocked because I'm asking you, is there a problem? I said, pick precise words so I can use these words to fix the problem. And you can see they're like, whoa, look at this guy. But after like the 3rd or 4th day, they realize what I'm talking about. Okay, John, you got to move it 3 inches to my right. That I could work with. So, and I say the words have meaning, and it drives me nuts that language, it's purposely being eroded, RJ. I think this is on purpose, because if we can't, it's 1984. If we can't communicate, then we can't band together and solve our problems. And humor that isn't funny, late night comedy is excruciating. Funny is more difficult because it's local. Yeah. Mexican funny is you know what's funny, Oscar, is my older brother and I, we would put on Mexican TV. We don't speak Spanish, and we would laugh, and we would say, I wish I understood Spanish because this looks so funny. There was one show of just like an old fat guy, but he was dressed like a baby. And he was just like chasing around these beautiful Mexican actresses. Oh my God, they're so beautiful. And they're just falling down and acting silly. And we would just laugh, just wishing we knew what the full context was. But yes, somebody said that comedy doesn't travel well over time and space. And I think they're right. No, Sana Amina didn't actually write any comics. She was just in charge of RJ. What was she in charge of? Continuity or character creation?
She was the vice president of character development and something else. Yeah. So basically, not America Chavez, but the character that was based on her. She was an editor. She was fast tracked to be an editor, and then basically became the second in command under the editor in chief, who basically took care of everything except for the artistic part of it.
Right. She created Kamala Khan after herself. Yeah, Bendis is the enemy of continuity. Yeah, that's what got me. I quit Marvel Comics a fly's wing before the woke era. What got me to quit was the disregard for continuity. I've been slowly reading. Like, I missed the Fantastic Four, so I've been buying Fantastic Four, and I'm up to issue 20 of Dan Slott's run, and for 10 issues it was excellent. And then literally you could just find the month that, okay, Identity Politics, bing, issue 13. Oh God. You guys think Mark Millar was born a great writer? No, I think Mark Millar was born interested in comics. I think he's intelligent, and I think he practiced. But like, I think like Jack Kirby was born a great artist, or at least he had something in his imagination, if that makes sense. No, G. Willow Wilson she didn't write America Chavez either. I can picture the woman. She's a
No, G. Willow Wilson was one that created with Sana Amanat, what is it, Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan. But what I don't know if she wrote America Chavez or not. One I'm not sure.
No, the woman that I'm thinking of, maybe she wrote an issue or two, but the woman I'm thinking of is a short, dumpy, frumpy lesbian who literally goes on a tour circuit making fun of comic books afterwards. Like, she's rolling her eyes when she's described.
Yeah, she's fat, black, disabled lesbian woman. Yeah. So that's not G. Willow Wilson. Yeah. G. Willow Wilson is I'm a Muslim. Look at me. Even though she's white.
Could actually write, believe it or not.
Oh yeah,
she could actually write. This woman was semi retarded. The woman I'm thinking of. I hate to be saying that, but it's no other way to describe it. Back in 1993, Wordsmith and Layman were talking about them pushing the structure of I talked about this many times. I took a history class, a historiography class, I think it was called. And one of the things we had to do was read letters from no, what am I talking about? It was American Civil War class. And we had to read letters from soldiers. And it was ignorant Northerners and ignorant Southerners, the letters that they wrote. And they were like, "Greetings, my dearest love. I hope the dawn greets you with the immaculate kiss of blah, 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 blah." And it's like a full, beautiful paragraph just saying hello. And this is like a guy that's like a potato farmer in Kentucky. You know what I mean? And now, and now people can't even write. You know what I mean? And that was the quality of these letters. They were like beautiful to read. I lay at night and I shiver with fear. Not that I'm going to die, but that I'm not going to come home to see you again. And it's just like, Charlie Bumpkus. You know what I mean? I was like, T. Franklin. Thank you. That's the name.
Here's the way I think about it, and it's connected to what we're talking about for
Rivera is what I'm thinking of. T. Franklin is another
Gabby
one.
Rivera.
Gabby Rivera is the one I'm thinking of. Thank you. T. Franklin wrote something else, and that's going to drive me nuts. I'm sorry, RJ. I cut you off, but I got excited.
No, I was going to say that what we're talking about, how to write a good story. Here's the way I think about it. It's the fact that, okay, stories are a rhetorical argument, but I always talk about the difference between old logic, which is medieval and ancient, and modern logic, because old logic connects logic. It is connected to everything from language to reality, the basis of reality. But if you look at modern logic, it's only connected to language, not to reality itself. So basically you could be a sophist and just make the worse argument the better if you knew how to manipulate language. And that's the way it's been for the last 100 years, to destroy the connection of people to think logically and connect to reality. And now that it's been 100 years since they've done that and are sufficient in actually accomplishing that, now they're destroying language itself, so you can no longer connect to anything.
Right. I believe the whole pronouns thing is a direct attack on language, and it's obfuscating reality. You know what I mean? Now we're walking around confused. You know, it's like being mentally unbalanced. I thought of this just the other day, and I was going to ask you, but I didn't think of it just now. But did I? Who? Now this could drive me nuts, but I think it was Plato that came up with like logic and then the mani, like logic, logos and the mani. Logos is logical, and we need that. But he was to say, don't discount. I forget if it was Aristotle now, but don't discount mani, which is like divine inspiration or just intuition, or I don't know where that came from. I had a dream and I woke up and now I got this idea. He says there's sometimes this irrational mani, which is the root word for mania and maniac and all that. We just have inspiration and we can't explain it. Either it's divine or it's drunkenness. He even says get drunk and talk with your friends and have a good night and see if ideas come. That's the whole Greek symposium idea. But I became fascinated with that idea. And then I went down a rabbit hole about Descartes. Did you ever hear about Descartes in his dreams?
In his dreams? I'm not entirely sure if I remember anything about that.
Ushered in the age of reason, and it's the beginning of the modern age, and logic and deduction and you know, again, the age of reason, everything like that. He's the cornerstone of Western philosophy. But he was walking around, and it's funny that he said to people, I haven't been drinking wine. And in the book that I was reading this, which I find harder to believe, a Frenchman who didn't drink any wine, but whatever. But he goes, I haven't been drinking wine, but I'm filled with zeal and enthusiasm. I feel I'm going to have a mystical experience. And this is Descartes, 24 years old. And then he said to somebody, tonight I'm going to have a mystical experience. I know it in my bones. I'm possessed by a spirit. And he went to sleep. I'm getting chills thinking about it. And he had a dream where he was being attacked by ghosts and this presence of evil. And then he woke up and he prayed. You know, this is the father of reason. And then he went back to sleep. And he had a dream that he was in a whirlwind and sparks were hitting him and he didn't know what to do and he was off balance. And then he woke up out of panic. And then when he calmed down, he had his third dream and he was in a room and there was a book, a dictionary, and then a book of poetry. And he picked up the book of poetry and he started reading these poems that I can't remember if they were real or made up for his dream. And as he was reading the book, the spirit of truth came to him and told him, it's time for you to do your work and think about truth. What is truth? And then he said that those three dreams were the basis of all of his philosophy and logic. And he was kind of embarrassed by it. But I find it absolutely fascinating that such a well-respected cornerstone of Western philosophy who influenced things like our Constitution, our law systems, this conversation right now, came from some sort of mystical experience that, you know, do you want to call it divine? Do you want to call it infernal? Do you want to call it craziness? Do you want to call it a chemical imbalance? You know, I don't know if Descartes had, but I find that absolutely fascinating. So I know you're a very logical guy. Do you have any belief in like this mystical enlightenment, you know, mani for the Aristotelian word?
Well, I think that it's probably Aristotle that you're thinking of, but it might be Aristotelians that's to say his students that actually really took this idea and ran with it, although he did have some idea of it, if I remember correctly. I really, I don't like Descartes at all. I think Descartes is the beginning of the end because I think
All right.
the whole point of I think therefore I am is that you can't be connected to reality. The only thing you can know is yourself, and that's it, which doesn't make any logical sense because in order to know yourself you have to distinguish between one concept of another, and that means duality or a multiplicity of ideas for you to even understand to that level, which contradicts his entire point. But anyways, I think that he destroyed
the cuff.
What?
I love that just off the cuff you could debunk Descartes. I just love that. It's fascinating talking with you.
No, it's just the fact that he's the one who actually moved logic from that. That's the exact point of the movement of logic being connected to reality and language all the way from one to the other to just language itself, because he disconnects it from reality, saying the only thing you can know is yourself. You can't know like reality actually exists, and therefore just base everything on I think, therefore I am. His whole spiel is based upon a, let's say, heretical interpretation of what is it? He was religiously trained by I can't remember, Ignatians, which Ignatians are known to go off the rail all the time. Anyways, that being said, if you go through religious tradition, yes, I would agree that there is such a thing as infused knowledge. All of a sudden, it's basically the way that you will think in heaven is you think of a question, you automatically know the answer because you're going to be in the presence of the truth. So there is such a thing in religious, like our religious tradition, of infused knowledge. You can suddenly, all of a sudden, like the apostles, all of a sudden they knew how to speak in all these different languages for everybody else to understand. They didn't know these languages, and they never studied these languages. So I do believe there is such a thing as knowledge that comes to you from the divine in that way.
Okay. Classy to me. This pains me. Yes, your boy Zach's live streams were so much fun because American Chavez was so big. Yeah, RJ, you still do that? Scroll it down. You know,
every once in a while. Yep.
Yeah. Like your boy Zach is such a disappointment. Like I was so into that. That was part of my daily routine. I would come home, I would sit in this chair, whether this chair was in my old apartment or here, open up my mail, listen, you know, and it was, you know, my wife was at work, she wasn't home, so it was just time with, you know, to listen to that stuff. And now it's almost as if he's a different person. Like, was he faking then, or is he faking now? Is he just chasing an algorithm? I don't know, but I noped out.
I think his brain is broken. Honestly, I have respect for Zach, but for Richard, but I think his brain is broken because so many things that he said over the years about, you know, how many wives he had and how many children he has and how he can't keep anybody in his life and how he keeps on making plans to do this and that with his family and they just fall apart and it never actually produces fruit. I think he's a very lonely individual and unfortunate. It has degraded his mental health.
My first time I started to wonder about him was like, I've been listening to him for 2 years and he moved like 7 times. That's not normal. What's going on? You know what I mean? Like, I hate moving. I'm going to die in this chair, probably live on camera someday. Zaid Comics, Phil Diaz says, reading Hitman while I listen. Let me know what you think. Do you like it? Are you bad? Are you past this first 6 issues were good, but it gets so much better. Let me know what you think. That's one of my favorite series. I'm somewhat of a star. I'm sorry, I can't read. I'm somewhat of a striving to make my own superhero, and I have to worry about some far leftist clown putting their BS into it. Make it yourself. It's a lot of work. It's rewarding, and it's both the hardest thing you'll ever do, and it's amazingly easy at the same time. I know that makes no sense, but what do you think, RJ?
I think again. I always say, and I love to say this, and it kind of pokes some people in the eye, but comic books is an American medium, and that's where it was created. And the whole point, well, not the whole point, but one of the major points of comic books is that just an everyday man on the street can make a story.
Yep. Practice, write scripts. You know, I don't know if you could draw. If you could draw, it'll make it so much easier and cheaper. It's expensive. And remember, everybody on the internet is not your friend. You know.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, you know, the internet is fake and gay, and comic book fan groups are the fakest and gayest. You know, there's a few solid people, and you'll learn.
Here's the thing. I think this is a good litmus test that John actually made me think of. It's the fact that if I can hate your story that you wrote, but we can sit down and talk about good comics, there. You're a comic fan. Like, I mean, if we have creators who say to each other, I don't like your story, I think it was a bad story, you can do better, but we can sit down and talk about comics, great. That's the way it should be.
Yeah. Now, when you say bad story, do you mean like poorly written, or like I'm confused by this story? Or it's just like, no, Spider-Man wouldn't act that way, or you mean like just bad, like both meanings? You know what I mean?
I used to have people, the first of my channel, I used to have a lot of people come to me and basically say, can you read my comic? I want your opinion on it. And a lot of them were horror comics, and I've never been into horror comics. And I tried to be as gentle as I possibly could, but some of them were just is like I don't enjoy reading this. I can tell you right now. I like.
Yeah, well, then you're not going to help because.
But at the same time, there are people I could sit down and talk about comics about.
Right. Like they give you a horror script. You know what would my suggestion is, you take this, you change this, and not make it a horror comic. Well, that doesn't help me. Like I have a friend that I stopped sending scripts to because she finally was just like, I hate superhero stuff. I'm like, well, then you're not really going to help me. Oh, you're on issue 5 now. Okay, you're getting past the okay stuff. It was still good. Issue 3 though with Catwoman made me laugh.
That was one of the things that I learned when I working with my editor for my novel manuscript. It was she would tell me something that I would have to change. I would sit there and stew for about 2 days saying, I'm not changing it. This is the way I want it. You're wrong. And then after about 2 days of mulling on it, I'll go, yeah, she's probably right. I need to change that.
It's funny because I was so reluctant to send any editor my first script because like they're gonna do plastic surgery on my baby and it's not gonna look the same kind of thing, you know what I mean? And now I realize the biggest thing hindering me was not letting other people give me criticism, honest criticism. Man, I would have been done. My first comic script I thought it was great at the time. Now I realize I was completely wrong. And you know what I mean? Good criticism is helpful, but also, how is this comic? Sucks. Okay, great. That doesn't help me in the slightest. You know what I mean? And also, like one of the guys said, I would change this, but consider you could do whatever you want. I'm like, I know I could do whatever I want, but like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, 6 people said the same thing. That's a problem. That's something I need to. One guy was really, really cool. And we had a video talk and we talked for 2 hours about the opening scene of my comic where Boss Moxie has the machine gun and Patriarch flies down and de-escalates everything without violence. And he said to me, your first impression is he's lying to people. Your character is a liar. And I said, yeah, but that's the wrong way to look at it. The way to look at it is he bluffed a villain with the with a Thompson submachine gun because even he couldn't block all the bullets. So he figured a father just doesn't kick open the door and start beating the kids. The father tries to reason with them, or at least a good father. The violence is the last resort kind of thing. And he goes, nah, he lied. So I was like, okay, thank you. I was very respectful, nice guy, but I ended up sticking to my guns. Did I do the right thing? I don't know. But like Patriarch is a father who tries de-escalation first before violence. That's my character concept. Not flying in and punching a guy, then the guy fires bullets, and then next thing he can't deflect that many. He's not Superman. That's the whole point of him. RJ, in the past you mentioned one of the big inspirations for Virtue was the old Ultimate games. Is that still the case?
No, I gave up on the virtues of, the early Ultima games, starting with Ultima 4 up until about the end of Ultima 7, which is a double parter. Then they actually talk about Virtue, and they actually tried to make some connection to Virtue, but it's very much convoluted and has not a whole lot of basis in direct connection to culture and what actual Virtue is. It was about like 1999, 1998 when I started to say, okay, I'm very interested in Virtue, but I got to look at what Virtue actually is. And that's when I began my like 20-year quest for finding what Virtue was. And so no, like literally, I can't remember the year.
And unfortunately, that quest led you to me.
You're the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, John.
Yeah, I'm the pot of brass.
No, I literally said to myself sometime in the 90s, I can't remember when it was. It was like, I need to find what the actual definition of virtue is. And I went on a quest for knowledge that lasted almost 20 years, learning about, well, basically the lore of the reality connection between virtue and truth and all that kind of stuff. So I moved well beyond the virtues from the Ultima games, even when I began that quest.
Okay. Classy to me. Could I do scrolling down? I would, but I'm at the bottom, so scrolling down.
Going down.
One thing I decided for publishing sci-fi is not to go hard against bad sci-fi stories. The cult following you story. That's every group. I made what I thought was an honest criticism of a certain comic book faction, and it just steamrolled into personal attacks that are just so egregious that I can't even pay mind to it anymore. I shields up. These guys are out of their effing mind is the only way to describe it. All I said was, how about we stop looking at what other people do and produce our books and get them out on time. Wow. I should have been burnt at the stake for saying that. And oh my God, was that not well received? And and here I am, still being talked about. RJ, did you play Ultima? Yeah, you played Ultima Online, right?
No, Violent. Here's the funny thing. Ultima Online, I've never actually played it, but it was probably one of the turning points of my entire life, because I was preparing to play Ultima Online because they didn't have any standalone games anymore. And I printed off the entire manual. I got my character all ready to go because I said to myself, I'm doing the fun stuff first before I get into how I'm going to actually play this game. And this is a time when, internet in your home was a new thing. And I had my character ready, and I knew exactly what the ranger was going to do and what his special skills were and all that kind of stuff. And then I read the terms of service for Ultima Online, which basically said that not only do you have to have a credit card, I said, okay, I don't have a credit card, but I'll figure out a way to get one. But it also said that you need to, in the rules of the original Ultima Online was, when you build up your character's skill set, they will atrophy in real time, which is to say, not the time that you're actually playing the game, but real time, every second, every hour. That means that you must play this game continually, and in order to keep your stats of your character up. And that's basically, I'm going to bleed you of money until you can't pay anymore. And then you're going to pay me more because you want your character to survive. And I said, I ain't doing that. And then I said to myself, I'm looking at this character, this ranger that I created. And I said to myself, if I'm going to spend that much time and that much money developing a character with these skills, I might as well just do it myself. And I thought to myself that as a joke. And then 2 seconds later, I went, hey, wait a second. I play a ranger. I could do this. I can learn campcraft better than I know it now. I can learn how to pick locks. I can learn how to track animals. I can learn lore. I can learn potion skills, which are basically the old way of medieval medicine, all these kinds of things. I can actually learn those things. And that literally, this was a turning point in my life. And I started to do that.
RJ is now a ranger, ladies and gentlemen. 3 times a day, he could transform into a bear. I'm just going to fill up my coffee cup, RJ.
Okay, I'll ask the next question. I'll answer the next question. What is the meaning of life? Tony says. Well, I'll give you the full answer and then my actual answer, Tony. The meaning of life is 32. Everybody should be able to get that reference. The meaning of life is 32. But again, I'm a religious person. The meaning of life is to know, love, and serve God. That's as far as I'm concerned. That's the way I live my life, and that's the meaning of life right there. Violent says, I played it, which he's talking about Ultima Online. It wasn't that intense. They did have a stat lock though. Okay. But literally that's what I did. I said to myself, I'm going to play a ranger. I can do these things. And I basically went to my brother had SAS manuals and all that kind of stuff, because this was before he joined the army and he was looking into all these things. And I was like, okay, I'm learning to discern what different clouds mean and how it's going to differentiate what the day is going to look like by weather, and look at tracking animals, because I lived in the country, go to the backwoods and track animals and to basically figure out how to, basic Boy Scout things and stuff like that. So yeah. 42 is a 40. It's been so long.
42. I didn't want to correct you.
It's been so long since I read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I got to say, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I was one of the last book that I laughed out loud reading. It was so fun. And then I watched the movie, and I think I lasted 5 minutes.
There's a really good, what is it? It's a BBC done in the early 90s, late 80s, radio play of the book. I laugh out loud.
George Morales says alchemy. I don't know what spurred that on, but I've been reading so much about alchemy. I'm tricking myself into thinking I could be an alchemist. RJ, you ever watch Forged in Fire?
No.
It's that show where they build swords.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's my wife and I. We got into that for like 2 years, just watching every episode. And now I think I know how to make a sword. That show is dangerous. Now I was like, well, when I get a house and have a backyard, I'm going to make a forge. Thank God I wised up and didn't burn down my house.
One of the things I used to do was, this is a long time ago, I used to think of magical weapons and then figure out a way to make them in real time. So basically like a cursed dagger. That's the only one I can remember off the top of my head. Basically it was a cursed dagger because the hilt of it had tiny pores in it, and the inside of the hilt itself was contained a poisonous substance, and so when you would use it, you would die eventually.
Okay, that's cool. I'm fascinated with alchemy, and I have a couple of stories. Well, already alchemy is a part of my world. I mean, I don't think you'd pick it up just yet, but there's a lot of alchemy, and keep in mind it's comic book alchemy, but there's going to be some historical alchemy, and I just started writing a story called The Alchemist of Oz for Heroic Tales. Believe it or not, so alchemy is a big part of. I can't wait to tell people the story of The Alchemist of Oz. And I'll also tell you this: the three wise men were alchemists, in my opinion, in my story.
To bridge the gap here between a violent talking about and classy tome, I started off playing original like Commodore 64, Commodore 128 D&D games like Curse of the Azure Bonds and stuff like that, and Dragonlance ones. Then I moved into Ultima, and when Ultima finally got to Ultima Online, then I moved back to D&D games like Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, all those kind of things.
Tony wants to, he's getting super serial on us right now. RJ, did you grow into your faith, or is it something you always had?
I'm a cradle Catholic, and I have never actually strayed from that. I had some deep intellectual thinking of how the truth actually exists, especially when I was studying Nietzsche. But no, I've never left, and it's from the very beginning. We've always been a religious family, at the very least one half of our family, and that's the way it's been.
It's when I come home from work, I get home, I walk in the door at like 10 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's like my wife and I have to frantically have a conversation because she has to go to bed. So usually she'll have dinner waiting for me. I'll take a quick shower. And we're just talking as I'm eating because, when I wake up, she's already gone for work. And today we just had this like really fast, really intense conversation about, I was like, I've come to the conclusion that I'm a Christian supremacist. I said, West, we need to bring back, whether you believe, like, have you heard about what's his name? Hitchens, the famous atheist from Britain.
Yeah.
Yeah. He came out and admitted that he would rather live in a Christian society than an atheist society, and I'm like, if this guy who's just adamantly argued with against God and religion, it's absolutely bad. Like, look at the horrible days of the 80s when the religious right were, censoring records, and I was pissed off, but like, it was the golden age, man. The comic books were great, movies were great, Star Wars was great, Dungeons and Dragons was great, and even the left-wing people. I know you don't like them, but the left-wing people were making their rebellious music, punk rock and stuff, and it was fun, and now the left is in charge of everything, and it sucks. So
Well,
like,
the whole
yeah,
point is rebellious right there, John. Rebellious is the thing. It's they had something to kick against, they had something to work against. I am, after making comics, I said this over and over again. I think that limitations is the best thing ever for a creative person. And you put limitations on them, say you can't do this, you can't do that, and then they'll find a way around it. And that's true creativity in order to still produce the exact same thing.
I I agree, and people, because I hated the Comics Code Authority, but I can't. You, what's the expression? Don't you can't trick my lion eyes. I'm messing up the expression, but the best comics came out under the Comics Code Authority. Yeah, I know Watchmen wasn't, and then Vertigo and stuff like that. But like, as much as I liked Vertigo, I got to admit a lot of it was self-indulgent. But when Vertigo was good, it was really, really good. But the average comic, Marvel comic during the Comics Code was above average. There's a reason why Marvel Comics did good and Charlton didn't. It forced people to behave. It tampered down the really crazy stuff, and it really forged like this patriotic. It's my father said, John, you read too many comic books. You think that like ultimate justice and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, Spider-Man defined my sense of right and wrong. Would it have been better for like John Constantine? You know what I mean? Post Comics Code Authority comics. I don't know. I agree with you. I think a little bit of restraint is a good thing. Like, this is maybe getting a little personal, but like guys at work, they're there's like every job I go to, there's always one good looking guy who refuses to get married, and he's chasing tail, and he's showing pictures of like these horrible girls twerking all the time, and I just find it revolting. And I always just ask him, like, are you happy? Oh, yeah, man, I'm banging every weekend. I'm flying out to see this girl this weekend. And then after like 6 weeks, they all admit that they're not happy. Like, they're, like the ball and chain. I'm like, you be married. It's not that bad. You work within it. It gives you boundaries, and you work within those boundaries. And, I don't know, a little bit of, like, look at all these people who just don't work. They're miserable. I don't like waking up at 4:00 in the morning and going to my job and stuff like that. But when you're out of, just imagine like 4 or 5 years, you don't have a job, you don't work. Like these guys that fake an injury and don't work, they're just lost souls walking around smoking their cigarettes. I see them all the time back in my old apartment complex. They're just losers. I do constraints cause creativity, as paradoxical as it seems. Discipline, freedom.
Something I was thinking about what you were talking about, John, and I know you probably don't agree with me at all, and I'll probably get crucified in the comments for this, but I was watching this movie reaction. This lady, she's probably like, I don't know, 28 or 30 or something like that, watching Constantine for the first time and asking questions about whether or not the comic was any good or did it follow the movie. And I thought to myself, I bought John Constantine from issue 1. I would prefer the character as it is in the movie because it's so limited. Like, quite honestly,
the movie, I didn't like. It's weird because I liked the movie and I didn't like the movie because the character was so different than the character, but it worked. It was a good movie. They took a lot of John Constantine stuff, changed it, and they made a good movie. If that movie was called Phil Moskowitz Devil Fighter, I would have loved it from day one. But the fact that it had the baggage of because John Constantine's a blonde British guy who looks like Sting, you know what I mean? So that threw me for a loop. But everybody who didn't know the comic loved that movie, and now that I can separate it, I like it a lot better. Now every tabletop RPG are purple. Yeah, purple is like a dominant color in comics and everything. Like purple and pink. As your boy Zach used to call it, bisexual lighting. I don't know. It's grating. There's got to, like they say, like orange and red inspires hunger. That's why Burger King is like that. Like purple and pink has to, like, psychologically. Blue is calming. Purple and pink, what does it inspire? Like gender confusion?
No, it purple is basically it causes confusion in your brain and makes you go on high alert.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What? Okay. Have I ever heard of the Gospel of Judas? It's not like a modern book. Like, writing one of the Gospels from Judas's perspective. I've heard of it. I haven't read it. Have you?
No. I used to. Let me put it this way. Back in my university days, a lot of people kept on telling me, why don't you go and take religious studies? And I said, I don't want to start learning about something that's not part of my religion, because they did all kinds of religions. It was religious studies. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't want to learn about those things. I want to learn about my faith. And, I don't know enough about my faith. I want to learn more about it, not these other faiths. And the same with apocryphal gospels and things like that. It's like, why would I read the gospel of whatever, an apocryphal gospel, when I could go and read, Augustine's explanation of St. Mark?
Yeah. The modern left of the authorities and owned by the corrupt people looking to oppress. Yeah. Look at all these judges that let these people out. They're all left-wing crazy people. Right-wing judges believe in consequences. Left-wing judges believe in. I used to think that they believed in emotions, but I think they just believe in, hey, let these people out so they can kill all these white European descended Western culture people who believe in individual rights and that's what they're trying to do. Get rid of the individualists and replace them with collectivists.
Did you hear this thing, John? It was they started talking about, a lot of people started talking about, a couple of people anyway, started talking about this study. Basically, they did brain scans of men and women. So what they did was they would, what was it? There were people that were cheating at a video game, and they were watching people play a video game. So, okay, men and women watching these people play a video game. And so when they would just shock people randomly, both the men and the women would feel sorry for the people being shocked. But when the people that they were shocking were people who were trying to cheat at the game, the men, their brains would not feel bad for them. The pleasure center would light up and say, oh, he got what he deserved. Whereas the women would still feel bad for the person getting shocked, even though they were shocked because they were breaking the rules. So there's your suicidal empathy right there.
Did you see that study in the 50s where people listened to authority and shocked people? They thought they were shocking a guy to death, and they still went through with it.
I remember hearing about it, but
yeah, I watched it. The psychology, it's one of those tests that they're not allowed to do anymore. But like, the person be like, okay, there's a person wired to, you're gonna give him a mild shock, Each time he gets a question wrong, there's like 16 switches. So the first one was like, it's an actor on the other side, but the person doesn't know it. So the guy with the clipboard and the white coat asks a question, and the guy doesn't. He gives the wrong answer, and he gives him a little shot. The guy goes, "Hey, that tingles." Oh yeah. And then the one was like, "Oh yeah." And then by the fourth one, the guy's like, "Stop it, knock it off. And then. So he's like, no, I want out of here. He's not responding. He hit the fifth switch, and the guy hits the guy's like, ah, and then the sixth switch, there's just no response. We're like, okay, he's not responding. Hit the seventh switch, and there's no response. And a lot of people made it all the way to like the 16th switch. Like, out of these people they tested, like one or two people just like, no, and they went around the side and they saw it was just a guy goofing with them, and they were like pissed. But everybody else went to this, they listened to authority and electrocuted a person to death, or at least they thought they did. And how did the Nazis happen? Look at COVID. How far away from rounding up people and putting them in concentration camps were we? I used to think people were intrinsically good. I don't think that anymore, RJ. I don't think that anymore.
I remember, I don't know if I told the story before or not. One of my first days at university was a political science class where I was sitting I was the keener, sitting at the very front. And I was of the absurd notion at that time that people could be actually, like, journalists were independent and were looking out for people and speaking the truth. And the professor asked this question of the entire class about whether or not, they could be truly independent and whether or not they're looking out for whatever. And I was, this idiotic Star Trek mindset of, this is the kind of thing that we're trying to build towards. And I was the only one in the class who basically said, people are basically good, and they're looking out for, and I didn't know that everybody else in class was sitting at the front. I didn't know that everybody else put their hand down, and I was the only one who chose that. Not that way anymore.
Yeah, I remember there was just like a series of epiphanies. Like I just assumed that all journalists just wanted to get the truth, you know, and then that was like the first thing that went away. Then the second thing that went away was like the government. Like, oh, we got to do with the government. The government is good. The government, you know, oh yeah, we got to listen to the government, pledge allegiance to the government. And I'm like, the government is the problem. Jeez, you know, I'm patriotic to my country, but my, you know, and then the next thing was scientists. That took a long time. That scientists are just as corrupt as everybody else. You know, it just, I don't know. The illusions have been shattered. I don't trust anybody. You know, like I can't believe, like I said something the other day, and people are attacking me on Twitter. I'm like, how can you think I'm wrong? Like, to me, this is so obviously true, but I don't know. I don't know. Authoritarianism wants you to fear society. It makes you require their protection. Yes. Yes. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I got mad at because people have been stealing my videos, and then just like, look at this guy, look at this guy, look at this guest. He's an idiot. So I warned him. I said, next person who steals my video, I'm going to give you a strike, because you're not. It's not transformative. I said, this is a business. This is my product right here. You know, I'm trying to make super chats. I'm trying to make ad revenue so I can either make comic books or pay for StreamYard. You don't just get to take an hour-long video and just be like, look at this guy. Look at this guy. That's not transformative. And you're getting revenue off of me. You're stealing my work. Like, you don't just get to take a baker's cupcakes, break in, take them, and then sell them as your own. So I said, I'm going to strike you if you take my videos. This isn't communism. You want ad revenue, make it so that people watch your show on your own merits. If you want to talk about me, parody me, whatever, that's fine, but don't steal my videos. If you know, and the only person who ever did transformative content, as far as I'm concerned, was Sargon of Akkad. He would play like a 30-second segment and then respond to it in a well-edited, well-thought-out, he didn't just watch a video making faces and then stopping it and be like, look at this jerk. If that's considered transformative in response, then YouTube is out of its mind. But like, I think that they're not doing enough to protect people's, like, I can't just play the Beatles or you know, I can't just put a sticker on what's her name's J.K. Rowling's book and say, look, Harry Potter, and just put a sticker, this book sucks, and then steal them all and then sell them. Oh, I transformed it. It's critique. You know, at what point can we just say, like, knock it off? So I struck somebody, and now I'm the bad guy. I'm against free speech. I'm a communist because I won't let people take something that I built up and let them profit off of it. They're abjectly wrong. You know, YouTube was built. Reply to me. Reply to me. Don't just take my video and. You know what I mean? But then again, these people have no content of their own that matters. They need to steal somebody that's actually fun to listen to. The electrical shocks were called the Milgram experiment, similar to the Stanford experiment. So, I mean, RJ, do you it's fine if you disagree with me. Do you think I'm right or wrong?
No, I think you're right. I don't know why, because YouTube used to, well, at very least for my channel anyways, whenever I would do something that would cause me to strike, they would say, basically, all of your revenue for this stream is going towards these people now because you use their content. Why they don't do it for smaller people like you, I have no idea. It's like, literally, I used one of the clips from an old Superman serial, which is now in the public domain, and to basically we're talking about truth, justice, and the American way, and how, you know, what it used to be and all that kind of stuff. And still, even though it's in the public domain, it still got my thing struck, even though it was less than 30 seconds. And they said, all of your money for this video is now going to like Warner Brothers or whatever it is, right? So why they don't do that for smaller streamers? I don't know. That's the way it should be.
It's funny that you said that, because if I play a Disney clip, all money generated for my stream, which isn't a lot, goes to Disney. But if somebody takes an hour of my video and plays it, why don't I get their ad revenue? You're absolutely. I didn't even think of that. And watch, I bet you if I did get their super chats and their ad revenue, they would stop doing it. Thus proving it's not about reactions and I want to. It's like my channel sucks, so I'm going to take somebody else's and use their. It's stolen gravitas, So this the way I'm going to deal with it is if you want to be talking about comic books, you know what I mean? They're going to be bored because I'm not going to talk about that drama anymore. But I think it's wrong. I don't EFAP. EFAPing is gay. If somebody says something that I want to respond to, I will maybe a still photo or whatever, or bring it up in passing. And this is what I want to talk about. But to steal their video, that's their work. That's their content. They built that channel. I don't have the right to just, and again, if I actually saw some of these people taking a 30-second, like they zero in on the part that they didn't like, they show the 20 seconds or 30 seconds just to show the context, then they stop the video and they have a well thought out argument, more power to you. That's awesome. But to just, here's John's video. Here's an hour of John and his guest, and I'm just going to go like this. This guy's gay. Look at that beard. He's gay. How is that allowed?
Although, just on Jay's point there, again, you're just talking about Sargon. That's how I actually got to meet Sargon. Is I did a video that he responded to, and then I responded to his response video, and then we traded back videos every once in a while. That's how I actually got to, connect with the man and speak to him.
Yeah. I used to follow. He just puts out so much content that I felt like overwhelmed. Yeah, but I do now. When I see it's a topic that I like, I watch it. But I used to watch everything he did back in the. I used to watch RJ and then Sargon. What did they say? John, have you seen Absolute Poison Ivy and Scarecrow? No, and I don't care because the whole Absolute line is, look, it's not what you expect. It's not Batman. So then who cares then? It's not Batman. Absolute Batman is like the kids who are just like, hey, look, I'm going to react to my father. I'm not going to be my father's Batman. I'm punk rock. Just make a new character.
If they want to make an Absolute Poison Ivy and subvert the entire thing, make her ultra heterosexual and the way that she actually used to be. There's my take on Ultimate Poison Ivy. If you want to make it subversion.
The Art and Times of Jay Ryan. I'm just saying that in general, it used to be an unwritten rule that you didn't strike other people. I don't care. I also didn't get the COVID shot. I do what I feel is necessary. You want to steal my content, I'm going to strike you. If you want to actually put in the work and do some editing and take the 30-second thing that you disagree with, and then you have a well thought out commentary, that's a whole nother ball of wax. But they don't do that. And like RJ said, if you steal other people, how come Disney? You steal Disney's content, I lose the monetization. If I play your song by the replacements get the money for the whole video, not the 30 seconds, 40 seconds. You know what I mean? Like I've not striked, but I got I had to edit stuff out because people in their trailers they'll play a song like a big band song from the 40s, and next thing you know, YouTube's telling me that I'm losing all my ad revenue because I used a Glenn Miller song. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, but you could take an hour of mine, So yeah, watch how fast it would stop if they stopped getting ad revenue on taking other people's stuff. Yep. Warner Brothers will hit you for 30 seconds. Yeah. And J.K. Rowling's got to sue everybody or she loses Harry Potter. If they don't, they leave themselves open to, it's ass backwards. I don't know. I'm the bad guy now. I'm a communist because I'll build something and other people can't live in it. Go figure. That's what I'm talking about. Sometimes I just wonder how people think. And it's funny. One guy goes, I'm an absolute freedom of speech guy. And I think you're wrong. As he got somebody banned on Twitter for saying something he disagreed with. I saved that screenshot. When that guy brings it up to me. Didn't you report this guy and get him banned from Twitter? Absolute free speech guy. But I noticed that the people, with one exception, are people with like 500 subs and their videos have 29 views and and I see my face on their channel. I had 86 subscribers for a year and a half, and my average video had 3 views on it. It wasn't until you, RJ, had me on your channel that I had any substantial, I would have brought them on my channel, talked to them, and discussed problems that they didn't like. That's fun for me, and if I would have went on their channel and discussed, not that I'm a bigwig, but most of the people stealing my content are people with nothing. I used to watch Sargon back in the Gamergate days. Yeah, I was after Gamergate. I wasn't a video gamer. I still not a video gamer, so I loosely followed Gamergate. And to be honest, I can't stand when things are called Gate. It's just like overdone. But I got into Comicsgate because I was big into comics and I believed in it. I thought it was a conservative reaction fan-based movement. Now I'm kind of embarrassed that I ever got hoodwinked. Actually, it was that for a long time until the movement got hijacked. And instead of becoming a fan-based movement, it became a brand. That was the downfall. Yes.
Funny thing is that I maybe this is delusions of grandeur on my part, but I think I had a part, at least at 1 degrees, the turn of Carl from where he was with being a liberal to a conservative now. I helped turn him 1 degrees in that turn, I think. But Violet asked the question whether or not I actually met him. I had him on my channel. We've had discussions before. I've written articles for his website, but I haven't actually physically met the man. I haven't met John either physically, but we talk a lot.
And we talk a lot, we make plans to make plans, whether it happens, whatever. But I remember when I first started watching Sargon, he was vocally liberal. He never said progressive, but he was vocal. And then he started calling himself classically liberal. And I don't know, does he call himself conservative now? Because everybody else called him an alt-right Nazi, which basically means he's a middle-of-the-road normal guy.
Yeah, I think he calls himself a conservative now.
Oh, he does? Because the one that I always like, Shoe on Head, she was a crazy progressive. Is she now? She's married and has a kid. I haven't watched her in a long time. I always found her funny and she's charming, and she lives on Long Island, so I always wonder if I'll bump into her.
That's what I always think when I see Shoe on Head. It's like, what if John ever bumps into her?
Yeah, but like, is she, like, Whitney Cummings was a screaming liberal, and she said when she brought her baby home from the hospital, she became a conservative. She's just like, kill these coyotes in my backyard. I don't care about them. I got a baby to protect. So I the old adage is true. I was a stupid liberal back in my college days. I was old enough to vote for Ralph Nader the first time I could vote in an election. My second presidential election, I voted for Bill Clinton. My third election, I voted, I forget who was not even on the ticket anymore. He got bumped off because he wasn't conservative, and he was too conservative for the general public. Good gosh, RJ from Sargon's channel. I knew I recognized your voice. Yep.
That would be an old video.
Yep. I keep joking, and it's not a joke, but that my $100,000 stretch goal on my next campaign is guys like RJ. I'm flying him here to New York, and he's gonna make up Thomas Valiant in the role-playing game. We're gonna sit around this table, and I'm gonna live film it. But RJ gets to wear a shield mask. I'll build him a shield mask, and I'll poke little holes. So he still won't see his face. And I don't want to see his face. Like the joke that I made a million times, it can only be a disappointment.
I tell you, John, I always think that I should drive down, but I remember the last time I drove through the Bronx and my knuckles were white.
Oh, man. I remember me and my friends, I forget, we were in our 20s and we were driving to some stupid party. The whole party, this whole, I look back at how stupid I was, but we were driving to a party, and when we were coming back, we broke down in the Bronx, like really bad neighborhood in the Bronx. And I had to get off the Cross Bronx Expressway. So we pulled over, and it was just like, it looked like downtown Lebanon after the bomb blew up, like buildings just, and it was funny because one old black guy comes up to us and goes, "You got to get out of here." I was like, my car won't start. And I don't know what happened, but some guy pulled over, and he was just like, it's like what's wrong? I said, I think my car, he jump started my car and and I just let it run for a little while. He's like, get out of here. I was like, where the hell am I? I expected Slee Stacks to come walking around the corner. Yeah, John likes it with, you can keep your shield on. What's that song? What? Keep your boots on. Yeah. RJ, how close do you think we are to Armageddon vis-a-vis the situation in the Middle East?
Honestly, I think the situation in the Middle East right now has just for our younger viewers, I'll say this. If you're someone who is draftable age, I think what has happened over the last, since January, has assured that you will never be drafted in your lifetime. Quite honestly, because the whole point is why he first took out Maduro was because he needed a supply of oil so that he could attack Iran, which he needed to do because that now undercuts both Russia and China so that they can never attack anybody else and start an actual third world war. So you will never be drafted in your lifetime because of what has happened in the last, 3 months.
Okay. Mike Gustovich is a super screaming liberal, and he posts on Facebook all the time. And I leave him alone because I love Mike Gustovich. But he was just like, how many more times do we have to that Trump is just in Putin's pocket? And I was like, Trump took out China's oil supply and Russia's oil supply. It's like, I got problems with Trump, but he's not in Putin's pocket. He just handicapped China and Russia right now by taking out their oil. How can you say that, Mike? And he'll never work for me again. I never mentioned your name. You're good. You're good. But I don't know. I'm seeing people like during all of this, Israel's going to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mark and rebuild the third temple and usher in the Antichrist. I'm like, hey, calm down. Let's, I don't know about that. Are we living in biblical times? I hope not. Hope not. I got a couple more issues. I got 7 projects underway right now. I don't need the end of the world. Let me finish these comics. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be drafted. I think wars now are going to be drones, and it's the country that could make drones and things like that is going to win the war. Do you have more food? Do you have more machinery? Do you have more drones? And look at Russia. Russia can't fight Ukraine. And Iran fired at 7 or 8 different neighbors and nothing. And do you remember the Bugs Bunny with the when he perplexes this Palooka with the punch, and they were all the Brooklyn whatever they were, the baseball players would just go da 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 over home plate. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's the way I picture like the leaders in Iran right now. They go da 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 da, and then they get killed. Da 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 da. They're just standing up. I'm the leader now. I'm the leader now. Like right now they're like, no, you're the leader. No, you're the leader. No, you're. I don't know. As far as wars are going, this one seems to be pretty precise.
I'll say this to anybody who has, I can't remember who asked the question, but I have people in my family who are military. I know people who have certain kinds of badges and things like that. And what's going on right now with war, like we'll say the U.S. in war, it's a chess game. It's not, I'm throwing this at the wall and see if it'll stick. It's a chess game that they've been playing this and planning their moves for a decade, if not at the very least a couple of years. So, there are people doing things right now to put up a wall against things you have never even heard of yet. And that's what they're doing. So just to let you know, I mean, it's not absolute chaos. It's not something that's, that's just out of the blue. This has been something brewing for a while.
They went in and took out a president of a country with like minimal casualties, like over the course of a baseball game. You know what I mean? Like, say what you want. That was impressive. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, that was impressive. And then didn't Trump just say to I forget which president was like, just say the word and I'll put a missile through in the cartel's living room. Like they know where these people are. They know everything that, and we could do it. It's just do we have the willpower to do it? And what's the backlash going to be? Or like Chappelle show, when keeping it real goes wrong. I don't know what the consequences are. I'm not that smart, but as far as this Iran war, it's like unless, and I know I'm not dumb. I know the media is lying to us, but like I would like to think, with my distrust of the media and how much they hate Trump, they would be blowing it out of proportion, telling us how bad it is, but they're not doing that, which means it's got to be better than the reporting is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, they were, like we were talking about earlier. I am fully of the opinion that this is how bad I think the media is. I am fully of the opinion that the whole pandemic thing would never have happened if Donald Trump had lost the election, and the same thing would have happened when Hillary Clinton was in office. Like they would have shut down a couple of airports and maybe had some warnings in a couple of cities, and that was it. The entire thing never would have happened.
I don't think they would have shut down anything. If we weren't told there was a pandemic, nothing would have changed. It just would have been a bad flu season.
Yep.
Nothing would have changed.
And it's the media that was the apparatus that had disseminated this entire thing and made people do what they were doing.
Just like Vaz. If the media didn't tell them how bad the weather was, it just would have been another day in Quebec or Ontario, wherever the hell of Canada. Right. If you lived out in Appalachia and didn't have a TV, you didn't know there was a pandemic. I bet you there's people out here where I live out in Long Island that was just like, when because I moved in the middle of it all, because I'm like, I don't know how long this is going to last. This Queens is insane. I got people yelling at me in the streets. All the restaurants are closed. I can't park anywhere. This sucks. So I was like, honey, we got to get out of here. And I moved to this, basically underdeveloped part of Long Island. And when I got here, it was as if there was no pandemic. The diners were full. People were like laughing and joking. I got like teary-eyed. I was like, oh my God, normality. It's only 60 miles away from Queens. It's a whole nother world. I'm walking into the diner and there's no stupid plastic shields. The waitress is like, what do you want, honey? What do you want, sugar? I'm like, normal people. And I wore a mask when the house inspector came over because I didn't want this guy to leave because I had to take the day off work and everything like that. I opened up the door. The guy goes, you wearing a mask? Those things are stupid. They don't work. And I was so embarrassed. I was just like, I don't even wear these masks at all. I put up fights at work. And one time I put it on because I just can't afford for this guy to leave. He makes fun of me. What's it? Vaz says, 5 minutes ago, I had to open the door on the balcony to see if there's still something going on. It's that calm outside. Yeah. See the power? And Canadians are notoriously compliant. They're not known for being impolite.
Yeah, the funny thing is, John, that if I still lived in the States, I would be seen as a sheep. But I live here, I'm seen as the wolf.
Yeah. My wife is Canadian. She's super polite. She gets mad and then she goes, I'm sorry. It's funny because when my wife came here, she just the news is the news, and I started getting her like the New York Post, the Daily News, and I'm like, okay, during the election, I was like, what do you think? And she's like, look at this picture of Hillary Clinton. She looks like the devil in this picture. Oh, look at this picture of Trump. He looks, yeah. Do you think which paper has which bias? And she started to realize the news is lying. She was just a normal, non-political Canadian girl. As a Canadian, I didn't know you were Canadian. Where in Canada? I used to love Canada. I used to love Toronto. As a Canadian, the polite Canadian thing is always a bit overblown. I told you I'm not allowed to fly Air Canada anymore.
I don't remember. Why is that?
Oh, when my mother-in-law died, my wife and I flew out to Vancouver. It was really sad. We had to clean out the apartment and stuff like that, and but I had to get back to work. My wife took like 3 weeks. I only had 1 week. So I go back to the airport and I went through the TSA and was in such a hurry. I left my wallet with the TSA people. So now I'm waiting by my gate. I'm like, where's my wallet? Oh my God. So I go back to TSA, and the TSA guy, when he saw me, he was really nice. He had my wallet in his hand, and he goes, I knew you were coming back. And he didn't make me go through the whole line again. He just ushered me. So then I went back, and I was like running to catch a flight. And this woman goes, oh, you're not allowed to run. And I forget what I said. I was like, I'm in a hurry. I just, and she yelled at me. And she said something like stupid American or something like that. And I just went, excuse me? And she was on the phone. She goes, I'm on the phone. I go, yeah, and you're an asshole. I know I shouldn't have been running, but I'm trying to make the flight. So, and she goes, what did you say? I go, lady, if you're miserable, quit your job. And she goes, for your information, I'm retiring next week. I said, good. Then you know, that's closer to death. You'll be dead soon and all your problems will be solved. And I ran away. I shouldn't have said it, but like, whatever. Next thing you know, the police had me up, frisking me and handcuffs taken off. They had the regional director for the airport deciding whether or not I'm banned. I said, you really want me, a crazy New Yorker stuck in Canada? You won't let me just get on this airplane and get the F out of this country and you never have to deal with me again? And the cop said, that's a good point. And the lady was like, come out of here. But all because I was running in the airport, but OJ Simpson was running in the airport. And he never hurt nobody. You know? So I'm banned from Canadian Air. So I don't know. But I would love to go back. I loved Montreal. I loved Toronto. And I tell you, Vancouver was so beautiful. Canada is so beautiful. It's a shame the government is destroying that country.
That's what I always think, John. I think I love the land here. The government on top of it is just like a festering boil on otherwise pure white skin.
Oh, I'm sorry. I really have to address this. Are you being funny, Tony? Or are you being sarcastic? Because for those of you who don't know, somebody jumped a fence with a homemade bomb and was throwing it at protesters, and he was screaming Allah Akbar. And there's a great photograph of this black policeman just jumping over the fence to save people. This guy is an absolute legend. And the press says that they're trying to kill the mayor. This guy was trying to kill protesters. Nowhere near the mayor. The bomb fell at the feet of the protesters. I think the cop got it away. And the mayor says it's white supremacy. So I don't know if you're being funny or mocking, but the newspapers totally changed what happened. It was a Muslim terrorist trying to kill protesters. And the funny thing is the guy that the bomb landed in front of was a pro-Palestine guy. So, you know, that, but it was just a white guy yelling. So it had to be, but there was, you know, pro-Israel guys, anti-Israel guys, and this guy threw a bomb at them. And luckily the bomb didn't go off. Luckily this New York City cop, and then they didn't honor the, they brought that pro-Palestine guy to City Hall and had dinner with him, and the hero cop, they washed their hands of him. So I don't know if you were talking about that. We were more about common courtesy. Yeah, I had nothing but the people when I was in. I think the last time I was in Canada was 8 or 9 years ago, and we were in Vancouver. I was in Toronto. I was in Montreal. I loved it. I loved Canada. I don't know if I'd go there now. I'd probably get in trouble. Bye, Greg. We're talking too much. Sometimes I wonder if you're still here, RJ, or if I just talk too much and don't let you talk.
No, I'm just chuckling inside about your TSA story.
Yeah,
I was just coming back. See, here's my story about, you know, the opposite of exactly what you're just talking about. What was it, like 6 months ago, I was coming back from Eastern Europe, and I was just worried about the fact that I was trying to smuggle basically plants through the security system, because, you know, I went on a lot of hikes and stuff like that in the mountains, and I would collect acorns and seeds and tiny, I had like probably like a 3-inch sapling for an olive tree, and I was thinking, I'll just shove these in my bag. Hopefully they don't think they're explosive. Yeah. That's a level. I was like, I know I'm doing something wrong and I shouldn't be doing it. So I'm just going to be as compliant as humanly possible going through this line.
RJ's sneaking olives from another country. You damn criminal. I just want to say hello to Dave Brink. Dave Brink was just on my channel. He's got his comics. He's got the Perfect 10 collection right now on Fund My Comic. And Safeguard, I think, is coming out soon. Check it out. Best superhero comics being made right now, bar none. Wolverine is a BS premier superhero of Canada. A Canadian superhero, a tough guy, self-reliant, cocky lone wolf from Canada. That's true.
You gotta remember the history of the character. Let's go with continuity. He actually was a person before Canada even existed. So I'm not sure if you can call him Canadian in that sense.
Right,
he lived in Canada.
Like those early trappers and stuff like that, they had to be rugged individualists back in the early days of Canada. Like what's his name, Louis Riel and stuff like that. I don't know the history. Maybe I'm talking nonsense.
No, I have a book. I can't remember. It's like it's an old book, and it takes these old accounts from like settlers and things like that, and it's like a Field and Stream kind of thing from the 70s or the 60s. And some of these stories about these frontiersmen, there's like getting their scalps ripped off by bears and things like that, having to trudge through the snow with their scarf holding their head together. It's like, oh my God, you people, how in the world did you survive?
RJ, you just made me think of something. We should do a YouTube show, me and you doing the we build a raft and go down the Yukon River.
I know enough not to take my life in my hands anymore, John. anymore.
Me and you just we'll chop down trees. We'll make a float. We'll spend 2 months just drifting down the Yukon River. I always wanted to do that. I always wanted to run from the bulls. I never wanted to climb Mount Everest. That I know my limitations. I told you I applied to be an electrician in Antarctica.
Right.
I think I asked for too much money, but I would go in a heartbeat. My wife would not let me go, but I would go do 6 months in Antarctica. Be like, I'm the only electrician in an entire continent. I'll take all the pictures of Argotha. Screw everybody. I so messed up. I wanted to join the Freemasons just so I could tell everybody their secrets. The coolest comic to come out of the Great White North was Fred Kelly's Mr. Monster. Yeah, the inspiration from Michael T. Gilbert's Mr. Monster, who did the one of the variant covers for my comic. I love Michael T. Gilbert. Americans seem to forget the amount of influence Canada has on your pop culture, even though a fraction. Yeah, Canadians, you marry a Canadian, and every time somebody from Canada turns on your TV, that's Canadian. That's Canadian. All these Jim Carrey, that's Canadian. William Shatner, he's Canadian. You know what I mean? It's funny.
What's the guy who did was the host for Saturday Night Live last weekend? He's he's the fourth time he's been on it, and you rarely get someone on it that long. Can't remember. He's got the new Hail Mary movie coming out. Anyways, he's Canadian.
Oh, okay. I can't think. Well, Lord Michaels is Canadian, and like half the original cast, I think, because they all came from SCTV. A lot of them,
SCTV used to be like that was basically a Canadian show,
right?
When the Canadian version of Saturday Night Live.
I love that show, man. John Candy was my favorite. I still love SCTV. Not now.
Actually,
is it Grizzly Bear season?
We just have wolves around here, no bears.
Ooh, that's cool. My original plan was to finish college and move to Toronto to work in video games, but I dropped because it's too damn cold. It's funny because my wife laughs like, this isn't a lot of snow. I'm from Winnipeg. There's a lot of snow. This isn't, I don't know. Like, it's a lot of snow for us, And when I was just
last weekend, last week I was talking to somebody in South Korea, and I was explaining to them how it was minus 21 Celsius here, and they're like, how do you survive?
Uh, Tony Grigo says, "Quick question, RJ. I hate when people say quick question. Oh, quick question.
Yeah, because I don't do quick.
Met RJ? Have you met me? Canada used to be renowned for its comedians. What happened? Did your country lose its collective sense of humor? RJ,
Absolutely, yes.
The answer to this.
Yes, there is no sense of humor here anymore. Humor is the first thing to die. Just to let you know, John was talking earlier about giving up on culture and stuff like that. Yeah, I had the exact same thing, but I had it via entertainment. And the very first thing I gave up on was comedy. It was like, I don't want to watch these comedy movies anymore. It's just like, I don't find them funny anymore. And, you know, if you can't actually agree on the basis of what society is, and then what is funny off of that basis, then I'm sorry, comedy is just out the window.
Well, I think you said it in one of your Saturday videos. By the way, anybody from my channel who doesn't know, RJ has his own channel, The Fourth Age. And on Saturday, he makes serious videos, you know, as opposed to us goofing around right now. But in one of your videos, you said comedy, and Jerry Seinfeld said it of all people, that in order to be a good comedian, you have to observe objective reality. And what makes comedy funny is you are able to come up with something absurd. And the only way to come up with something absurd is you know what's real. And if you don't know what's real, your absurd stuff isn't that absurd and it's not funny. So progressivism doesn't observe reality as the way it is. Men or women, the female penis, blah, 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 blah. So their comedy is not funny. I can't even think of what was the last comedy movie that I saw in the movie theater was Tropic Thunder. And that was not politically correct in the slightest. And then that, you know, what was, my wife and I used to love to go to watch a comedy and laugh. Well, can anybody in the chat bring up what was the last big comedy movie that you know, when I was growing up, like they were gross. We called them like slob comedies, that, you know, like Animal House and Revenge of the Nerds, and, you know, movies that everybody, there was nudity and it was goofy and they were funny and they were gross and everybody loved them. They were like cultural touchstones. There aren't. What was the last one?
Last one, like you, John. Last one I can remember sitting in the theater actually bursting a gut laughing at was Rat Race. When did that come out? Like 90, I don't know, 99 or
I don't even. Yeah, Woke This Killed Comedy. Yeah, it was the first casualty. Comedy is usually the first casualty of wokeness. Shatner's my favorite Canadian. The left can't me. American Pie. Yeah, American Pie. That came out before Tropic Thunder. Ghostbusters came out way before. Yeah. The Hangover came out before Tropic Thunder. Yeah. Rat Race with Mr. Bean.
Mr. Bean was in it.
Last year, the Naked Gun sequel was great. Yeah, I didn't see it, but it was great. But I didn't see it because it didn't look funny to me. But I will say I was glad that there was a big push for a comedy. Oh, I know why I didn't see it, because Seth MacFarlane had something to do with it. That guy just bugs me. That guy I don't know why, he just bugs me. Seth MacFarlane and Seth Rogen are like the double death of Seth. We're all caught up on the comments. So now, do you want to talk about comic books? Want me to bring up Mike's amazing?
I think after no, it's not even 2.5, 2 hours and 40 minutes. I think we're good, John.
Yeah. I just felt all the air leave. And as normal, I said things I shouldn't say, and you know, bite me on the butt again. But there you go. So Heavy Trip and its sequel with the last good. I don't know Heavy Trip. Speaking of Mr. Bean, I was pleasantly surprised out that he's somewhat based. Yeah, I think I do think the tide is turning, but I just I don't know. Like, I want it to stick. I feel like, RJ, you said, like, the left now they're getting vicious now, because they, you know, like a cornered rat attacks, you know, the snake rattles its tail to warn you and it bites as a last resort. Like, they killed Charlie Kirk. They tried to kill Trump. You know, like, do you think we all know the left isn't going to go quietly away. They're going to do whatever it takes. So do you think we're gonna go to another like conservative era, or is this just like we're sticking our head above water, taking a good get, and then we're gonna submerge and never return?
I can't say which one of those paths we're taking, but I do believe that there is a good possibility, at the very least, that I think that we're living through what we used to live through, which is basically the 70s, when things were hard and gas was high and everybody was paying too much for everything. And then we had a renaissance of good culture in the 80s. So there's a definite possibility. I'm rooting for that future.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Rowan Atkinson triggered the left fuse by saying electric cars. Yeah. I'm loving John Cleese's awakening. He was just a liberal, crazy person for like 20 years. But the thing is, he lived on an island in the Caribbean, not that island, another island. And then he went back to London and he finally saw with his own eyes. And he didn't say he was wrong, but he course corrected.
Yeah, no, I went to the John Cleese show right after that and saw him live, and he's still a flaming liberal, but at the very least he admits when he's wrong.
That's good. That's the first step. I remember, like I said, journalists are and it felt good to say that. Like I said, it was journalists, then the government, and the last holdout was scientists. Ryan Reynolds is annoying, but not as irritating as his wife, Blake Lively. Blake Lively says things. I've never gotten past her looks. I didn't know she said anything. I mean, to me, she's like Galatia. She's just like carved out of marble as far as like gorgeousness. Like, I just cast her in a movie and you have no lines, don't say anything. Matter of fact, anything you say can and will only diminish you in my eyes. Don't talk, don't speak. She's Amber Heard light. I'm going to get crude, RJ. You know the crazy to hotness scale, right? Amber Heard,
roughly.
Yeah, the hotter the girl, the more crazy you'll put up with.
Uh-huh.
Amber Heard literally bit Johnny Depp's finger off, and they didn't get divorced at that point. So that's how hot she is. Like Edith Bunker. I tell you, if my oatmeal is slightly cold, you're out, Edith. So that but Amber Heard, you bit my finger. I got 9 more. But yeah, she also did other things, RJ. I'll leave that to this comment. Kind of like Deadpool and Wolverine movie. Yeah, the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, it wasn't a movie. It was like clip show. It was funny. It was nice to see like Chris Evans as the Human Torch again. It was, great to see. I thought it was fun to see what's his name as Elektra again, even though that movie was terrible, and especially Wesley Snipes as Blade. But it wasn't a movie. It was like, hey, clip show, the movie. But anything you want to say before we go, RJ?
Just a reminder to people that if you're looking for Crown the Destroyer now, I put the link in the description for the new Fund My Comic link, and I messaged Luke to see what I have to do in order to make sure people can actually order. If anybody is looking to order Crown the Destroyer, which we're still working on, hopefully we'll get it out there in the next couple of months by the end of summer. Also, very quickly as well, Mad Scribe magazine, which is basically he wants to make it sort of like a heavy metal light, but it's more about RPGs than anything else, really? And a lot about fantasy. So if anybody wants to see an article written by me and also a couple of pages of Crom the Destroyer, you can go over to Mad Scribe magazine. You can Google it, or if you go way up at the very first of this stream, you can find my comment that gives the link for it.
Is this going to be a physical magazine?
I know he publishes it. He sent it off to the printer, so yeah, I know he publishes it online, but I'm pretty sure it's physical. Yes.
Oh, cool. And it's role playing.
He says that's what they're concentrating on mostly now.
Okay, because I'm kind of in the beginning stages of making a Heroic Tales superhero role playing game. and I'll just publish it like a comic book. This will be the rules segment. This will be the player's handbook segment, things like that. I'll do it all by myself. If they're interested in whatever, I'd love to talk about it. Promotion is promotion. So check out Crom the Destroyer. If I know Luke is already in bed. He's an early to bed, early to rise kind of guy. So we're hoping this will be live sooner rather than later. You could pre. I don't need to put you on the spot, but do you know when it's going to be delivered? I know you made a lot of progress in the past couple of months.
Well, like I said, I said it here. I'm hoping we will do better than what I said here, but I said the delivery date I put on here for the Fund My Comic was end of September. But
Okay,
I'm hoping that we're going to do better than that.
Great. Yeah, you got to do the Scotty method. If you need 2 months, tell them 6, and then you come out as a hero. Yeah. I can't wait. The art looks great. I already, I love that it's all of your comics are set in the same universe. I love that kind of stuff. You're going to do some good world building. I'm excited.
There is a connection, just to let everybody know.
Yep.
You want to look for Easter eggs. There is a connection between this story in Crom the Destroyer and Thomas Valiant. Some people might be able to pick it up.
Yep. I got to reread. I'll take out all of your comics. I'll reread them all, and then I'll read Crom the Destroyer after I got everything refreshed. I love that kind of stuff. I love picking up little Easter egg. I got so mad because Horace H. Hoover by Fabrizio Aiello, one of the characters speaks in this like gibberish, and he told me, "Yeah, you could decipher that." I'm like, I got to go back and read it. I didn't know. But please, Heroic Tales 2, if you didn't check it out, that's also available on Fund My Comic. You can pick up Heroic Tales 1, Patriarch number 1. We're gonna finish it and then release the campaign. So right now you're waiting for it when you don't even realize you're waiting for it. RJ is just he's nearly done. I think he's like 5/8 done with the art. Oscar is like handing in a page a day for coloring. And then we're going to immediately jump into the King Fu Christmas. That's an experiment to see how fast we can make a comic. Just, it's going to be like 22 pages or something like that comic. And so that the King Fu campaign will probably launch first because the speed involved. And then I got 2 other projects that are, one of them, The Secret Project. And then one of them is Eddie is Doomed. All of a sudden, we just picked up speed on that. So I might have 4 projects done this year. And Bill Williams has Giant Size Punchline number 1, which has a 12-page story called, the Metaphors, My Superhero Team. So it's the first time all my characters, it's set in the future of what's going on now because I wanted to put all my characters on a team so I could show everybody. But that's going to be a campaign and then in the comic book stores. I can't wait. So this is going to be a big year for me. So thanks a lot, everybody. RJ, thanks. This is a lot of fun.
Thank you very much, John, for keeping us on track of our silly conversation that everybody is here for an hour, 2 hours, and almost 3 hours now.
Yes. And it's so glad that I had this Mike's Amazing World of Comics loaded up and ready to go.
We'll do comics next week. Every once in a while, we'll do a politics.
Yeah, well, that's the sweet lie we'll tell everybody. But I blame the chat. Seriously, guys, the chat, you guys came up with cool, interesting things to talk about. Some of them were comic book related. Some of them are philosophy and theology. I love all that stuff. That's, it was a fun. I didn't realize we were talking for nearly 3 hours. It's a blast. And of course, RJ, it's you, but you've cultivated a great chat. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you, everybody in the chat, and I will see you next week here and Saturday on my normal video.
And I'm going to play Oscar's favorite little clip of the clown. Bye, kids.
Goodbye, kids.